can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed.
All right, we are going live. Hopefully all of you guys... Oh, wait, I forgot my coat, Trevi.
Oh, no.
I can't forget the coat.
We are prepared.
Now I have to commit to it now. This is important. We got to be fancy. I'm committing to the bit, guys. I'm sorry.
So fancy.
Yes, now I feel fancy. Thank you. All right.
What's up, chat? How's it going? We're back. Round 2 of the Motor City Mayhem.
And there has been mayhem, to say the least, in the first
mayhem
round.
happened in round 1.
Yeah.
It was, unfortunately, mayhem directed towards the Demons of Chaos. You'd think typically perpetrators of mayhem had much mayhem dealt to them. And
I think all we can say after that game is that Korn is happy.
Korn was having a great time.
Korn was happy.
A lot of things died. Not a lot of Korn things, but, you know, he's cool with that.
I feel like he's not a god that is particular about the way that he is sated. I feel like he's an equal opportunity murderer.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have some equally interesting games for you guys this round. Again, this is always the upside of the early rounds of a tournament. You get to see stuff you might not see all the time. Well, that
the
was
table,
like the TO knocking over the commentator camera while we are on stream. It's okay. We got it.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
That was not on my list of things I expected today.
Well, we're doing it live.
All right. We'll figure out the angle later. Yeah, I don't want Trevi to feel left out of the shot. That's what I really care about.
Let me in. All right.
All right.
There it is.
So we have a spicy one this round. Literally, I think every commentator up here wanted to get this match.
Yes, we had a fight with Joe from War Games Live. Fortunately, there's 2 of us and 1 of him, so we were able to knock him down, and we stole the matchup. So
we have a quite a fun one. Someone we don't get to see as often as Turn that down. Make sure chat can't hear that microphone right now. We have Ad Mech into Grey Knights. Grey Knights potentially getting some upgrades with the army or armor of contempt. Already a very elite army, so anytime you can make something so elite and so powerful more durable, stands to reason they would widely benefit from that.
Absolutely.
So I think we're going to get to put that to the test here. As I have heard in the past, people refer to Ad Mech as AP1 the army. So armor contempt seems like a good counter to that, and I guess we're going to get to put it to a test right away.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we will flip over to the overhead while the players are setting up, but we'll start going over some lists for you guys. All right.
Yes, we are on Data Scry Salvage today. So the revamped version of Vital Intelligence from the GT 2021 packet. 6 objectives. 2 of them are kind of hidden. You can see them bottom left and top right inside the ruins there. But the players have a diagonal deployment zone, which is a little bit interesting, sort of along the line of where the objectives are placed down. So they only have 1 in their deployment zone and have to hold 2 to score 4, 3 to score 8. So it's a little tough to get out and get those multiple objectives.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember my book. Is this one the No Man Land sticky objectives?
It is, yeah.
Right.
So the objectives in the center of the table are going to be locked into a player if they control them with objective secured units.
Right. So you've got to tag it with an OBSEC unit, and then you can walk away from it and rest relatively safe that you'll still have it. until the other person interacts with you. So we have Quinn. The question is, who's playing which? We have Quinn on Grey Knights and Jason on Ad Mech. All right. So we need to get that fixed.
So
I'll message our table boss.
There, unfortunately. That good call out chat. Yep. Matthew Nurgle in chat, by the way. How's it going? Thanks for coming and tuning in.
All right. So we will definitely get to see, usually on this mission, anyone who can take advantage of the stickiness of the center objectives definitely can stand to benefit from it. So we'll see if that comes into play here or not. Let's start going over what we've got on these lists. So looking at Jason's Ad Mech list, we are playing Mars, good old Mars, the tried and true. Let's see. We're getting down here. So we have an Inquisitor. I'm going to imagine here for some psychic secondary shenanigans. Mm-hmm. Usually the most common reason to include an Inquisitor in a non-psychic list. We have a Skitarii Marshal with Exemplar's Eternity. We have the one Tech Priest Engine Seer with the Necro Mechanic Warlord trait. And then we have a Tech Priest Manipulus with the Raiment of the Techno Martyr. I think we're trying to double check exactly which ones those do right now because I don't have those memorized.
The Techno Martyr, off the top of my head, I believe, is the max repair. So he automatically repairs 3.
Right, okay.
Necro Mechanic, though, that is one I'm.
That's not one I've ever heard of before,
yeah.
That doesn't sound very Imperial, I'll say that much.
I know. You'd think that would be like a Dark
Sounds more Dark Mechanic, yeah.
So the Necro Mechanic is maximum 3 repair. And then the Raiment... Oh, the Raiment is the... I apologize. It's the ignore ballistic skill modifiers.
Okay.
So
that makes sense when we get to what I see in the bottom half of this list here in a minute. So we'll get there. We'll save the spiciness for the end. We got a 15-man unit of Rangers, a 5-man unit of Rangers, and then a 20-man unit of Vanguards. So notably, we're talking about the ability to touch these sticky objectives with OBSEC. We have that in spades here. We got 20 OBSEC bodies across the table for the Ad Mech player.
Absolutely. Importantly, we are in Martian Forge World, so we don't have access to a solar flare. So fortunately, those objective security are not going to be rocketing across the table, although they will just be advancing pretty quickly.
All right. So we have, let's see, a Cybernetic Data Smith with the Martian Warlord trait of Pangyric Procession, which you have. We'll get back to that. We have 2 units of servitors for some little objective holders. So that's going to be useful. That backfield, don't have to worry about it while you want to run up and touch the ones in no man's land with your OBSEC. They're very good backfield holders. Screening things out is probably going to be super useful also in this specific matchup. Grey Knights like to zip around the board, gating here and there. Little disposable units of servitors are going to be able to run over and hold a nice little bubble, which will be very helpful for the Ad Mech player. We have 5-man infiltrator unit and a 10-man Ruststalker unit. The Ruststalkers have been shown to be quite potent in melee for those who may underestimate Ad Mech's melee viability, thinking of them traditionally as an army associated with shooting. They can punch. They punch hard. We got to see that at Nova, where their melee murder powers were put on full display for the world to see. So they are a very potent counterpunch threat that this Ad Mech player has access to.
Absolutely. And we have a Tempercopia on those guys, which I believe is the Fight Last relic that you can upgrade unit leaders list with Archifactorum.
All right. Then we see a harken back to the pre-nerf days. Haven't seen these in a while. We got 3 Ballistari, each with the Twin Cognis Las Cannon. Playing in the Grey Knights, got a lot of 3 and 4 wound models, perhaps. That, even though not a lot of vehicles, it still can get a lot of value picking up some of these more meaty infantry units that we might be seeing across the table.
Yeah.
But then we get to my favorite part.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I consider the spice on this list, my favorite Ad Mech unit. We have 4 Castellan robots.
Oh, boy.
Each with double blaster and a fist. So they do have a little melee punch, but we get to rain bullets down across the table on our enemies.
Yeah, it's especially useful for that unit because once it locks into its defensive program, it loses the ability to move. So typically once you would engage that unit, it would be difficult for them to fight back at you, especially since a multi-model unit with big guns never tire. While you'd normally think that works just fine, unfortunately, big guns requires you to each individual model that's making attacks to be engaged by enemies, which means that you can probably only fire with a single robot that's engaged. But fortunately, with that fist, they can still punch back and potentially dig themselves out of some sticky situations if you need to.
So I do always like seeing that little mix of flexibility in that loadout, because 2 phosphor blasters is still plenty. You can still put out a godly number of shots into the right targets with that.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then to wrap it up, we got 2 Onager Dune Crawlers, each with the Icarus Array and the Heavy Stubber. So very not quite the Ad Mech list we saw from 6-8 months ago, however long it was, but still a lot of very obviously powerful and potent units in this list.
Yeah, it is very similar. I mean, we have the large Ranger brick to add some pretty hefty long range shooting with those galvanic rifles and all of the targeted command phase buffs that you can stack on top of those guys. We also have the Vanguard brick that's going to be able to sort of follow up with that shorter range shooting. But the 2 units of Sicarians is going to kind of ape the Richard Siegler style of maximum Sicarians. Not quite all in on that build. And I do think that build was maybe very specific to the player plays terrain format that Las Vegas Open used. Sure. So you could guarantee that you had places to hide those big bricks, because the Sicarians, once they get caught out in the open, they are only T42 wounds.
Right.
They will die very quickly.
Yeah.
The Iron Striders and the Onager Doom Crawlers, I like to see, especially in a Martian detachment. You typically still see them, despite the fact that they lost the core keyword, so they don't get targeted by the buffs, the Iron Strider specifically. But because you have that Martian sub-faction benefit giving you a reroll, and even though they're Skitarii, they'll still get the benefit of Canticles because of their Martian sub-faction. They actually still put out a significant amount of damage. If you switch into the Canticle that gives you a floating reroll, you can use the Martian floating reroll as well to get 2 rerolls on your Cognizlast cannon, so 2 shots with 2 rerolls. You probably hit once and wound once. You reroll the other dice, you're basically full rerolling your attacks with those guys. So despite the fact that they aren't core keyworded and a lot of the buffs don't work on them, they are perfectly efficient for 85 points a model.
Yeah, definitely. I think many people have written a lot of Ad Mech off, and to do so whole or just completely away, completely discounting Ad Mech at all, I think would only result in that player being punished. So
absolutely.
Hopefully we see an interesting game here where our Grey Knights player realizes there's still quite a lot of potent things across the table, and we'll get to see a nice cagey game. Yeah. I would love to see. And speaking of the Grey Knights, though.
Yeah, so one interesting thing I think that could come up in this game is that the Adeptus Mechanicus list has a lot of individual vehicle models. I mean, they also have the Castellan robots. So, and to be fair, they also have a lot of vehicles that are not individual units. But this mission is very strong for engage on all fronts, because your deployment zone starts in 3 different table quarters.
Yep.
And having a lot of individual vehicles means that you could potentially fall back on engage on all fronts as a really easy pick, since, especially with how defensively oriented the objectives are in relation to the ruins on the table, we can see that both players basically have the 3 ruins on each of their sides if you're looking at them short table edge to short table edge. All 3 objectives on that side are entirely hidden in ruins. And as we talked about in the previous round, all of those ruins are considered to be opaque for the purposes of line of sight. So even if you're just behind the walls but inside the obscuring terrain, you can't be seen through windows or doors or gaps. So it's going to be easy for the Grey Knights player to hide models on those objectives. And so being able to dig them out with to score strangleholds is going to be a little bit tough. So hopefully we can open up another secondary selection for the Adeptus Mechanicus player.
Yep. All right. So speaking of our Grey Knights, we do have a Grey Knight battalion here. Looks like we're playing. And I'll be honest, guys. I know, Trevor, you said you might be looking at Grey Knights in the future, so maybe you know some of this already to be our resident Grey Knight expert also.
Okay, I'll do my best.
We are playing with the Prescient Brethren as our chapter.
So that gives access to a 1 CP stratagem to give a unit reroll once to hit and wound.
Okay.
Which is pretty effective, especially if you're trying to operate things like Dread Knights independently from other units. You don't need to be stapled to a Grandmaster to get those rerolls.
This does appear to be a mission where there is going to need to be some horizontal movement across the table, kind of spreading out and stretching
Absolutely.
thin.
This is
so
one
that
of the
could
most
definitely
spread
pay off.
missions in the packet, for sure.
So we got no, I'm sorry, not the same thing. We have a Brotherhood Chaplain with Words of Power Warp Shaping. We have a Brotherhood Librarian with Gate of Infinity and Sanctuary. It has the Gem of Anoktu, which I assume is a relic.
Yeah, that's a once per game buff on a psychic test.
Okay.
So you can guarantee a Gate of Infinity or a 7+ cast if you really.
That can definitely
really
be clutch. That can absolutely be clutch. Then we have the Big Daddy, the Grandmaster, and the Nemesis Dread Knight. We have with the Empiric Amplification, Hammer of Righteousness, First to the Fray, Vortex of Doom. And I think the rest of this come. I'm not sure which one of these come stock.
So
I think all of that's the rest of it's normal.
So he
Dread Knight
has
stuff.
the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight. He's got the Silencer Psy Cannon plus the Demon Great Hammer. So I believe it's a D3 plus 3 damage melee weapon, but comes in with a -1 to hit, I think, as opposed to the sword. He's been upgraded to the classic Grandmaster combo with Servant of the Throne plus Sigil of Exigence. Servant of the Throne is the upgrade that gives you a once per game Armor Indomitus effect. So once per game, when you take a save, you can choose to turn your invulnerable save to a 3+ for the remainder of that turn. So that makes him super difficult to spike down. You'll have to basically set up to kill him over multiple turns because that 3+ invulnerable save should keep him alive for 1 turn.
Right.
The Sigil of Exigence is going to be absolutely huge here, and I think it's certainly going to change how the dynamic of this game progresses because the Adeptus Mechanicus list outside those Sicarians is almost entirely based on ranged attacks. It allows the unit to redeploy to essentially deep strike after it's targeted by a ranged attack. So if he leaves line of sight, the attacking unit can retarget, but if the Grey Knight player is playing super cagey and using his fast units to hide behind these line of sight blocking pieces of terrain, then the Grandmaster might be the only thing in line of sight. So he can play aggressively with that guy, get some shots off, maybe try to take out some Skitari or some Iron Striders. Then, once he starts getting hit back, just pops out of harm's way and lives to fight another day. The most interesting thing you can do there with that combo as well is use the Sigil more aggressively. So put yourself into a position where you're behind a ruin or something, but in an aggressive position. And if your opponent can get any more shots on you that are relevant, you can use the Servant of the Throne in addition to bump your invulnerable save. And then, if you've teleported forward rather than backward, you're going to be close enough to, just start smacking down your opponent's army the subsequent turn. And a Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight will clear out a lot of an opposing army very quickly.
Yeah. Now, you said the hammer on that one is the big anti-tank weapon, D3 plus 3.
Yes.
Do all Dread Knights get the opportunity, do they have a sweep or anything? Because there's 40 infantry that's going to be coming across the middle of the table. Little bodies, obviously.
So the sword profile, I believe, has the sweep, but I don't think that a hammer
No sweep
does.
on the hammer.
Yeah,
okay.
No. It's just it's strength 12, AP 4, D3 plus 3 damage, -1 to be hit with.
All right.
But you do have access to that reroll once to hit and wound from Prussian Brethren, which you can use on the characters. So
Right.
he can still be rerolling pretty effectively.
All right. So getting into our OBSEC over here, less OBSEC in the Grey Knights. We have 3 5-man strike squads, each with, I think it's all normal, 4 swords, sword bolters, and 4 sword on sergeant. Yeah. Then we have a unit I've been expecting to see more of moving forward. We have 5 paladins. With the Armor of Contempt, I've heard people talk about the durability of paladins, especially you're kind of paying a premium for what they bring. Any additional ability to keep them alive over the course of the game is going to be essential. It's going to be great. So dabbling in these paladins now, not all in on just a 5-man unit, but with Armor of Contempt and the normal stuff paladins can already bring to the table with the spells other people can cast on them and the things they have in their Terminator armor, they are not going to be easy just to pick up on a whim, for sure.
Yeah.
Then finishing it up, we have the good old 30 Interceptors. 3 10-man Interceptor units, all with swords and storm bolters. And then a second Nemesis Dread Knight, just not a Grandmaster on this secondary one. So a lot of very powerful, very elite units. Kind of the opposite of what we're seeing across the table with, we have 30 or 40 very cheap units and then big guns behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Grey Knights players obviously have to go in the other direction. They don't get anything for cheap. And everything needs to be amazing because they're one of the most elite armies in the game.
Yep, absolutely. Now we do have the players setting up right now. Looks like Quinn's on the top here. He has a really interesting scheme on his Grey Knights, by the way. They're like an Emperor's Chosen, or Emperor's... I did it. I think we talked about it last time. An Emperor's Champion scheme. They're all black, pink, and silver, which actually looks pretty good. But they do look a little chaosy. They got some of the taint to them. But this is an aggressive posture here from the Grey Knights. It looks like we have a ton of Strike Marines over in the top left-hand side of the table. Going to be trying to take advantage of that line of sight blocking piece of terrain that is next to the Adeptus Mechanicus deployment zone, and then push to those two objectives that the Adeptus Mechanicus would normally be pushing towards themselves.
Yep.
The two Dread Knights are standing inside the dense cover in the center. Again, we do have that Sigil of Exigence guy on the dude in front with the hammer, so he could reposition if he gets targeted, but we do have the infiltrators pushing up real far here to try to force that back as well. So even if he does lose first turn and get shot at, he can't sigil anywhere very aggressively.
Now, obviously, we all are familiar with Grey Knight's ability to redeploy in the middle of a turn.
Yes.
Are we worried about many, like, before the game starts, redeploys from the Grey Knight side? I don't think the Ad Mech has access to any pick up 3 units and move them or anything like that.
So, yeah, it is an upgrade on the Grey Knight side, but I don't believe they have it, unless I'm missing it. I want to say it's called Foresight or something.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is still, the Grey Knights player can put the entire army on the top of the table, and if they want to get to the bottom of the table, they have a lot of easy ways to do it just once the game starts.
Yeah.
So the Grey Knight player can try to force some type of an overcommitment to a particular area of the board, knowing full well they can leave easily. Excuse me one moment.
Yeah, Foretelling of Locust is the upgrade, but I don't see it anywhere on this Grey Knights list. So no redeploys for Grey Knights. We do have some pregame movements, especially with that Ranger squad for the Mechanicus, but I think both these players just setting up to really hammer people.
You know what?
Right up.
This is what I'm here for.
Here
Chucky.
we go.
Let's play some 40K.
Blood for the friggin' blood guy.
Yeah,
dude.
this is Corn's table. I don't care what anybody else says. This is
That's
Corn's
true.
table.
Those
We have
snows
seen
are
it.
blood stained.
We have Corn's essence has not left after round 1. Corn hung around for lunch. We are going to murder some models. All right. This is what I'm here for. This is why people play 40K. We talked about it last round. People want to kill stuff. I think we're about to kill some stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do have, it should be noted, we are on a U.S. Open style of terrain here today. We have those two line-of-sight blocking or obscuring pieces of terrain in the center. They're a little bit hard to see at this angle, but they have a piece of plexiglass underneath them that defines the area of the terrain. So that actually has the obscuring, component. But, to be fair, there are arcs of line of sight across the center line of the table multiple different ways. And as we can see with the Adeptus Mechanicus player putting his stuff in the center of the table there, the diagonal deployment zones in Data Scry Salvage are wide.
Yeah.
These some thick boys right here.
Yeah, the Grey Knights player already literally has units as far away as he can possibly get them. He's got a unit in the forest on the right side of your screen, and obviously he's got so many things in the crater up at the top of your screen. And there's a good 30 inches between those units, the ones on the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
This is a, as we alluded to, this is a mission that really forces you to stretch thin. If you want to play as a castle and just kind of roll across the table, you are going to struggle to do that here.
Absolutely.
All right. So looks like we got one. I'm going to imagine the Dread Knight on the line is the Grandmasters. As we talked about, it can run away if it wants to.
Yeah.
So it looks like we got the other Dread Knight in the back behind that top right ruin. And then we're just setting out all these interceptors to get at it on the line here.
What is on the right-hand side there inside that building?
As a smaller unit, I'm going to get that. Looks to me like maybe it's Paladins, but I will check with our table boss.
It looks like the Paladins are in the dense cover behind the Dread Knight in the middle.
Oh, this is up here? All right.
Looks like a lot of Quinn fans in the chat coming out. Any Jason fans, though? Anybody rooting for Adeptus Mechanicus? I know Ad Mech has been... they've been much maligned in 9th edition.
They have some
diehard fans.
I feel like we both agree on this, that people gave up on them way too quickly with some of those rules changes.
Well, they gave up on them, and then they immediately won LVO. So, what does that tell you?
Yeah. Although everyone's not Richard Siegler, to be fair.
He's not trying hard enough.
That's fair. I've never tried to be Richard Siegler. Maybe I could be Richard Siegler. I could just go legally change my name.
We're all
there
Richard Siegler.
Yeah. No, I think Ad Mech is incredibly potent, but I think the skill required is much higher than it used to be to pilot them to their full
100%.
potential.
They used to be very point-and-click adventure games, but they are much more difficult now, much more nuanced. And I think, honestly, from a gameplay perspective, in a much better spot.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, raw power, because they don't necessarily have that anymore, but they are much more interesting to play both with and against, I have to imagine.
I don't think... I play Tau, you play Tyranids. Obviously, both of us have had some very powerful books come out recently. Even as a person playing the powerful book, I would rather the game be interesting. I want a game that seems fun and where my decisions matter. I don't want a game where I feel like my army's just going to win because I have more guns than you. Like, that doesn't even feel like I'm playing a game anymore. I'm just playing solitaire, which is like...
Absolutely.
I think even the Ad Mech players, I'm sure there are plenty that feel like they got touched too hard, but I'm sure there's a lot that appreciate there's skill involved now that is required to make the army look good.
Yep.
All right, so the units on the line with the Dreadnought are 15 Interceptors and the 5 Paladins, 5 Termies. And then the other Dreadnought characters and strikes are in the Ruin. Let's see. Follow which one. Let's see if the strikes in the side Ruin.
Yeah, it looks like Quinn has finished placing units. He's removed his deployment markers, and so we are just all with those Castellan robots on the line.
Oh, I love it.
Go, dude.
Let's get at it.
You can't ask for a better setup, right, for a Castellan robot. Oh, here's the roll to go first, it looks like.
Looks like we had a 5 on the second roll. I think that was a 4 on the first roll. So I think our Grey Knights player won. Yeah, we have strikes in the short side Ruin over on the right side of the table.
Interesting. Okay. I think it's time for some pregame moves here.
I feel like I'm going to step away for one moment. We'll be right back while Trevi takes it.
Don't worry, chat. You're in good hands, I swear. I'll try to be gentle. So unfortunately, we don't have player ranks right now, chat, but we're not 100% sure what the players are discussing right now. Looks like Adeptus Mechanicus did win turn 1. Grey Knights are redeploying. Do they have that? Did I miss that? Did I lie to you, chat, directly to your faces? I'm so sorry. I don't know, chat.
All right. So, that was a 6 for the Ad Mech. Ad Mech is going first. The Green Knights are redeploying, as we talked about. They have some they can do.
So what? Did I just totally miss it? Because I don't think they have the redeploy of the list.
They're currently redeploying. So I hope they have it. Otherwise, we got a problem. Let's see.
Chat, call me out if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
Please.
Luckily, we have a table boss for exactly this reason. We'll follow up on that. But yes, Ad Mech is going first, so that is relevant.
That's very relevant.
All right. So, Cherry, I have a question for you about these Castellans. Do you like where they are? Because in my mind, because the 2 middle ruins are see-through once you touch them, I almost feel like I want them to walk up to that bottom middle ruin, touch it, and then basically be able to see most of the table from that position. As opposed to where they are, they're going to have to go past the ruins to see anything on the other side of it. Like, there's a little bit of a hole here in the middle between the ruins where they can shoot straight across the table, but they're not going to get to much here while this is obscuring.
Yeah, so it looks to me like they just want to move essentially directly forward, right? Like across the midline of the table in order to see the Grey Knights that have deployed very aggressively in that dense cover. They won't get perfect line of sight across because of the small line of sight blocking in the way, but they can start to get some shots off against the little strike squads and stuff that are right there. Now, interestingly, the game plan against Castellans essentially becomes how often can you hide from their shooting? Because if you let them lock in to their defensive protocol within line of sight of your army, it's going to go very poorly for you very quickly. And so the longer that the Grey Knights can use the line of sight blocking terrain to their advantage to hop around out and dodge the line of sight of those castellans, the better they're going to do overall. But eventually they are going to have to move into their zone of fire. Yeah, I'm not. we're having a conflab with the players about the redeploy here. Interestingly, I think it is pretty lucky for the Adeptus Mechanicus player with that very forward deployment of the Sicarians. Excuse me. I think you do have to deploy those pretty far forward because the Grey Knights player does have access to so many redeploys between the Sigil of Exigence and Gate of Infinity, and I think it's very heads-up play that the Adeptus Mechanicus player is respecting that. It's very easy to totally forget that there are those redeploys on the table, and you don't screen appreciably on the first turn, and you get caught out by it. So I think throwing those guys away, regardless of whether or not they get the first turn, was going to be pretty effective. But it looks like we are just putting those guys back. All right, well, that's awkward, but there you go. The awkward one about that, I think, especially, is that's a point upgrade and not a warlord trait. So it's and he is at 2,000 points. So there is no space for that to be in his list.
It was one of those something he says he always takes. Assumed it was in a list. We fix it. We move on.
I think everyone has done that.
Yeah,
at least once, where you're like, of course I have this upgrade because it's so good. Yeah. And then that one time you didn't
take it. You need it.
You didn't pay for the premium battle scribe where you get to save your unit loadouts.
And
you got to redo it every time, and you forget to hit the button, and it's unfortunate. But we are at a major here, and got to play by the rules.
Easy fix though. Look, glad we pointed it out now. This is why they're paying us, Trevi.
Yeah,
we're the judges.
The big bucks here. But it is unfortunate for Quinn, because I imagine that I don't know if he would have placed as aggressively as he did without access to that redeploy, which is why I think both of us were surprised that everything went on the line to begin with. Those Castellans, you'll kill some models now.
Yeah. So we'll it's going to be a question of how bad does he get punished for this, because obviously, as we said, when his turn starts, he can move basically anything he wants.
Right.
Get it out of that position, but he's already lost a roll. So.
Yep. Could you imagine if the Grey Knights went first here though with that aggressive placement? Oh boy.
That's not.
That would have been strong.
That's not what you would want.
I think there would have been a lot of interceptors in really, really aggressive positions. Yeah. Hit Ad Mech turn 2, and it would have been really brutal. But now they're going to get hit by Sicarians instead, and also Phosphor Blasters. Those two.
That's Phosphor Blasters add up. For those of you who haven't had the benefit of or the joy of playing against Docker robots before, they add up quite quickly. Let's see. I'll pull up the actual...
The full profile?
Yeah.
I think the other benefit of Phosphor Blasters is, if I remember correctly, they ignore cover? Is that right?
They ignore dense cover. Specifically dense cover, which happens to be exactly what he's standing in.
Okay, well,
that's a unique rule.
There you go. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So there are going to be 6 shots here. Strength 6, AP 2, 1 damage, ignoring dense cover, 36-inch range. Now, obviously, Armor Contempt is going to knock that down to AP 1 instead of AP 2. But that's still going to add up. We're going to have 24 shots there. If the protocol that lets them... Reading the protocols here, as I'm not an Ad Mech player. It can change it at the beginning of his turn. When does it get to lock down? Plant anchors or whatever they're doing.
Oh, I lost my data sheet.
So you start with Aegis, and
so I think you pick one, and then I believe the Cybernetica Datasmith gets to do an action on them to switch it.
So you can switch it on the first turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
But right now, they to be fair, they don't have a ton of good line of sight.
Oh, right, because you can't move and switch. You have to stay still when you switch
so
it. So
they probably move and take one bad shot, and then hopefully they're in a good space to lock in and start dealing damage the subsequent turn. Yeah.
Now, interceptors I know basically fly, but do they actually have the fly keyword?
They don't.
Okay.
They have, like you said, essentially all of the mechanics of fly, but they don't actually fly, which does mean that, again, unfortunately for the Grey Knights player, they are impacted by difficult terrain.
Yeah.
Which a little bit awkward for them, but it is what it is.
But we can't just abusively move block them because they will be able to go over our infiltrators.
Yep.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I think even with Armor of Contempt, the infiltrators, if suitably buffed up, will just kill a unit of 5 interceptors, assuming that we combat squatted them, which is typically the game plan if we take the 3 units of 10. Usually you'll split them into 6 units of 5, and you're able to complete your psychic secondaries as well as just peace trade with those smaller units much more effectively.
All right. So, where we see that, as you predicted, the one bad move, take a couple pot shots, and hopefully be in position for the rest of the game.
Yep. Maybe not.
Oh, sure. Maybe we don't want to move block ourselves. That's always the bane of players is move blocking yourself,
That
right?
is true. Yeah.
I've definitely lost games where I've done that.
Yeah. I think we all have. Oh, and we have this gorgeous line of sight here from the Rangers right down that line across the side.
Now,
a lot of this
I don't remember. Rangers have sniper rifles? Or is that just the people who are riding the dogs?
Only the Transuranic, I believe, has can ignore lookout, sir. The rest of the unit is just a regular heavy 2-gun. And then we get some sexy lines of sight with those Onager Dune Crawlers as well. They are Icarus arrays on those guys, so it is essentially several weapons stapled together, and a lot of anti-aircraft profile on them. So it is a 5-shot strength 6 AP2, a 4-shot autocannon, as well as a boatload of heavy stubbers, as is befitse. A nice Adeptus Mechanicus unit.
I'm trying to figure out what moved this far. I'm guessing that would have to be one of the infantry units just rolled a large advance or something.
That might have been an advance. Because that's the Vanguard unit, right?
Yeah, that's the big one. Because the Rangers are the ones in the bottom.
Trying to push the objective secured onto those objectives as quickly as possible, because again, like we said, those lock in for OBSEC. But those Onager Dune Crawler attack profiles, not the most exciting thing in the world, until you realize that unit is 115 points and gets the Martian reroll. It's a pretty efficient little unit. The big downside, I think, speaking of move blocking, is the size of their base, because it is very difficult to maneuver around with those big legs. Yeah,
I've seen it back when everyone was trying out Ad Mech. I saw it time and again in some of our tournaments we were running, that they'd be like, oh, I'm trying out some of these onagers or larger units or the airplane. The airplane's less so because they, obviously, you can move over them. But people would put the airplane where they've needed something to stop or land or finish their move or whatever. And if you're not familiar with playing with a bunch of bases that large, you could definitely run into problems that the average player might not encounter in a typical list.
Absolutely. So, there's the fix on the Castellan positioning there. Looks like we'll probably get 2 shooting into the units on the top left-hand side. We might be able to squeak a third one around the corner of those buildings. Not the greatest shot in the world, especially since they moved, but...
Well, I do like this. It looks like the Onager has moved in to start maybe taking some pot shots across the table at the strike squad that's over there in those ruins.
Oh, that's true as well. There's some tasty lines of sight. Essentially, we're creating like a grid pattern across the table through which all these Ad Mech units can shoot. And there's a lot of Grey Knights inside those, in the lines of those grid. So I think as we hoped to see at the start of the game, I think we will see the effect of Armor of Contempt in the matchup, and we'll see if they're going to be able to push through that defensive.
I do like the idea if the Castellans can reach across the table that far. If you can combine the shots from them with the Castellan, if you could potentially take out the strikes instead of worrying about what's across the table, you're going to force the Grey Knights player to have to teleport an OBSEC unit down to the bottom to go try to tag those, because obviously that's what he's indicated he wants to do with the strike squad that's over there. Just going to run up and be done with that.
And those are strikes, not interceptors in the cover?
I believe we were told they were strikes.
On the left-hand side?
Double checking with the table boss, but I believe that's
because they actually have trouble getting to the objectives in one movement phase if they are strike squads, because we have
been told they are strike squads.
Okay.
So
to be fair, almost the entirety of the Grey Knights Codex is built out of the Strike Marine kit, so anything looks like a Strike Marine if you squint hard enough.
All right, a few more advances here. Looks like we got a 6 on whatever. Oh, we got something. Let me switch to the other camera for a minute, perhaps. We got something coming across the middle or the bottom where our camera's not quite showing it. So I'll switch for a moment. We are coming across the bottom here. This unit was not quite visible on our original camera, but with that 6 on the advance, we have run across the bottom to go start and get to the objectives on the other side of the table, if at all possible.
So that's with the Rust Stalker unit?
Yes, I believe that was Rust Stalker. I'll verify with our table boss. But those were slightly off our camera from the overhead, so I missed those a little bit.
Yeah, so I think as the Ad Mech player, you have to be really excited about how this first turn's going to go. He doesn't have perfect shots, but he has enough shots to do appreciable damage. He's going to be able to force the Grey Knight player to move forward into his lines of fire the subsequent turn. And he's basically going to get, hopefully, 2 rounds of shooting before things get too dicey for him. Now, I do think, depending on how things go here, I think there is the potential that he could lose the Vanguard squad in the center there, but as long as they keep the castle and robots free, that should be okay for them. I also wonder if the Nemesis Dread Knight, the Grandmaster, can squeak a line of sight onto the Rust Stalkers, and if it's able to get off a Empiric Lodestone, it's going to hit them for +1 damage, so its silencer is actually just going to straight kill them if it converts. And that could be very dangerous for them if he's able to squeak that line of sight, but it might require a Gate of Infinity or a teleport shunt, because he does have a teleporter, so he's able to pop across the table. And speaking of that shunt, that's also a big benefit that Adeptus Mechanicus has, or an additional benefit that Ad Mech's going to have going first, is that they are going to be able to block off a lot of the potential positions for those units to teleport across the table. You only get 1 per turn plus the Gate of Infinity, but being able to screen out aggressively is certainly going to help the Ad Mech survive the onslaught that's about to happen.
All right, we're gonna do an experiment here, guys. It looks like I don't know. I think I just messed up. Sorry.
I think we're off to the shooting phase. Oh, look at all those dice go!
We're going to see if we can hear what the players are shooting at now. If the sound is terrible, please tell me and I'll turn it off right away.
Let's okay, looking for clears the moon, the roll at once.
Alright, we're hearing lots of it's terrible, so it's going away.
It's very staticky.
Yeah. So we're not going to play with that, guys. That's fine.
Yeah, I wonder if we're at kind of at the maximum range of our microphones there.
Well, you know what? We tried. We did our best. We're not going to worry about it.
Forget the rest.
We got plenty of other 40K to talk about without having to hear the players. It's okay. All right. Telling the players they don't have to worry about cussing anymore. All right. Well, I guess you guys just have to listen to me and Trevi now.
Oh, so. I'm sorry, everyone. That sucks. That's too bad. So it looks like, yeah, we're starting to peel some of the Strike Marines over in that top left hand, very far top left.
Now, the nice thing is, you know, Grey Knight is still a very elite, very durable army. We're not going to do the famous phrase right now, crippling damage to them on the first turn, but we can definitely start peeling away resources.
Absolutely. And Grey Knights are kind of at their core a trading army, where they want to be trading those interceptor units for enemy units that are going to cost equal to or more points. And because you have 3 strike squads plus 6 units of 5, if you split up all your 10-man interceptor squads into combat squads, you have so many small individual units that can start to instigate that peace trade.
All right, so looks like these might be some pot shots from some of the infantry. It's not enough dice for me to think that's the Castellans. Did not look like a very effective conversion there. Saw a lot of 1s and 2s.
Yeah, I think we just knocked
chipping away.
Yeah, knocked one interceptor unit out.
Yeah. Well, if those were saves, then that would have been good for 1s and 2s for the Ad Mech player.
Yep.
All right. All right. We may have had an internet glitch, but hopefully we're still streaming, guys. Yeah, so those Castellans were shooting the interceptors. All right. That's a lot of dice. That's what Castellan do. Oh, it looks like my... oh, no, we're not rolling those in a dice can. We have too many dice.
Too many dice. They have their own dice box for that one.
I need a bigger dice cam or dice tray. We need more space for dice.
Or smaller dice. Get those little 6mm ones that are teeny.
You could roll a lot of dice in that box. You absolutely could. All right, let's see how many interceptors are we going to lose to this. No, the interesting thing is, I'm curious if the Grey Knights player realized that the Ad Mech Castellans ignore discover, because that's such a random rule that almost nobody has. Yeah.
It's very strange. When you think about it, it makes sense, though, right? Because they're basically just shooting tracer rounds at you.
They're just burning away whatever cover you're hiding behind.
Yep.
But I'm not sure I can think of another unit that just specifically has that rule.
Right, yeah, only dense.
Yeah. You can't even, we don't even get to have the argument of is dense cover a benefit or not. The whole ignoring benefits from cover.
Oh, yeah, that fun time.
Yeah.
Good old 40K rules.
I've definitely had to sit and listen to people make that case before.
Yep.
I don't even care who's right. It's just annoying to listen to.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm glad that they came out in FAQ, put their foot down.
Yeah. Well, none of us have ever met a 40K player that wanted to angle shoot or twist the words to have a minute advantage.
Literally never.
Doesn't happen.
Literally never.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we're finishing off the save rolls right now. Following other table loss. How bad was this? We're seeing some models get picked up. Looks like maybe we picked up about 3 or 4 with 1 on a wound left. So that could have been worse. That could have definitely been worse with 24 shots into it. 4.5 died. Okay.
Yeah, it looks. I think we're down 2 5-mans right now, is what it looks like to me. And 10 Marines on 1 turn is not. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it is. It's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And we are going to see a charge here. Oh, and we'll see how well the onagers start to do. Starting to fire some Icarus arrays across the short edges of the table.
Well, and talking about we're just losing some Grey Knights. Grey Knights are like a much cheaper version of Custodes in a lot of ways. You're paying way more than you should for any normal Marine, and you don't want to lose any of them. Every single model is such a big deal in a Grey Knights army. if you lose 10 models before your turn started, you weren't expecting to. That can be devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, despite the fact they are so efficient, you still don't have that many of them. Despite their efficiency, they are still relatively expensive per model. They just do a lot for the cost that you get.
All right, so as we predicted, Onager is shooting across the table, trying to take out the interceptors that are on the... Or we were originally told there's strikes. Maybe we were talking about the last unit. But we're shooting the ones that wanted to run down and tag those objectives with the OBSEC. So those are going away, or we're trying to make them go away. Trevor, you do have a fan, at least, in the chat.
Oh, good. I'm glad I have one.
I will say that I am sometimes overcome by... I don't know if it's you or the raw sexual magnetism of at least Harry Dan.
Oh, it's
Harry Dan is just...
it's 100% Harry Dan, yeah. That's why you have to invest in the Harry Dan drip.
Oh, yeah.
Because it makes people swoon.
All right.
We do have some Ad Mech fans in the chat.
There we
coming
go.
out of the woodwork. Right. Had a lot of Grey Knight love coming out, but a couple.
This is why we were fighting for this match.
Boys.
These are two very, very heavily loved armies by the people who play them.
Absolutely.
That currently are not getting nearly enough love in our eyes.
Grey Knight's doing well though. Maybe not so much right now, but.
All right, so to clarify, the ruins on the right side, the middle of the right side of the screen, there's 2 units there. There's a 10-man interceptor and a 5-man strike spot.
Well, full 10. They didn't split the interceptor?
It may be 2 5s, but there's 10 over there.
Understood.
Yeah.
So there's 15 guys in the dense cover on the on the right-hand side. Yeah, so it looks like, it's a mix of interceptors and strikes. Looks like some of the strikes are getting taken out. That's good. Removing the OBSEC over there is going to be pretty helpful because, again, it stops those objectives from locking.
The sticky OBSEC, for those of you who were not here at the beginning, this is, if the OBSEC can touch the middle of the table, then they start sticky holding everything. So it makes complete sense to let's prioritize that.
Now, one thing we didn't talk about was the players' objectives for this game, the secondary objective picks. We have over here on Jason's side of the table, engage in all fronts, exactly like we talked about. It's a very good one, a very good pick for this mission because you start already in 3 table quarters, so you don't really have to work very hard to get 2 points a turn for that. We also have raised the banners high for Jason, which is that's a frightening one, I think, for me. The objectives are so aggressively positioned and far away from your army that it's kind of difficult to get to them. And on top of that, your opponents are typically going to be in range to them. So oftentimes you'll score 5 on your home objective, but typically your center banners will be taken out eventually over the course of the game. Last but not least, we have no prisoners for Jason, so he's going to score essentially 1 point every time he kills one of those smaller, the 5-man combat squads. Which means immediately I think he can score 9 points, an additional point if he kills the Paladin squad as well, and then plus the 2 bonus points for completing no prisoners. So that's up to a 12. And anytime you can try to grab or take no prisoners without it dramatically changing your game plan, you're almost always going to do it because it doesn't require you to really think too hard about it. You just kill enemy units, which is something that you're going to be trying to do in a game of 40k anyway. So that pick makes total sense to me.
Yeah. Did you? I'm sorry. I was talking to our TO who came up. Did you go over both players or just Grey Knight so far?
We just went through Jason so far.
All right. So Quinn has engaged on all fronts also. Makes a lot of sense with Grey Knight's ability to teleport around the table. They can usually at least easily get 2 every turn if they wanted to, and then start picking up 3 at the end of the game if everything goes according to plan.
Yep.
Purifying Ritual, obviously, great Grey Knight secondary. Just cast a spell on an objective pretty much and easily get 15 over the course of the game. And then Assassinate. I guess there are 4 characters in the Ad Mech list. There are the 3 normal HQs and an Inquisitor. I don't think they have any elite HQs. Or elite characters, I mean. So that one, I guess I may be a little bit reticent on if there's only 4 let's see. Oh, wait, there is an elite. There's a data smith. Yeah. So there is 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can probably get at least a 9 on that. Even if we don't like table our opponent, we can probably at least pick up a 9, I think. I always get reticent, I guess, apprehensive picking Assassinate if there's not an overwhelming number of characters, because if the other person wants me to just never get to them, I usually can't. Although I guess Grey Knights have a different ability. They can go character hunting a little bit with the teleporting.
Yeah.
So maybe he has experience with that can pay off. He can easily get weird angles on turns that Jason wasn't expecting.
So it looks like we're back over to Quinn's side of the table here. No charges from the Sicarian infiltrators. They just stood there, which is a little bit interesting. Maybe they failed their charge. Should we miss that?
Yeah, we'll follow up.
And they're probably going to get picked up relatively quickly here by one of these combat units. Outside of, I guess tangentially the Castellans and as well as the Sicarians, none of these Adeptus Mechanicus units are particularly good at fighting. So you're not quite as worried about interrupts in this matchup as you normally would be. So you can kind of engage across a broader front than you normally would playing as the melee aggressor. But we do have a pretty aggressive move from the standard Dread Knight, which is the one in the center there, as well as the Interceptors jumping over those infiltrators with their ability to ignore intervening models. Hashtag give Ad Mech Psychers. There is a Psyker in this Ad Mech list.
They brought a Psyker today. I don't think this is the batch that they're going to be the most use. As I imagine, Grey Knights are probably pretty good at denying a single Psyker of their abilities.
Yeah, it is interesting that, despite the fact that Ad Mech and any of the Imperial sub-factions don't have any Psykers in faction, the fact that just by virtue of being inside the Imperium, you have access to some of the, I'm not going to say some of the best Psykers, but certainly some of the best psychic defense in the game, between not only Inquisitors, but also Calexis Assassins. Really put a hamper on armies like Grey Knights. And you can just take those in any Imperium list. And here come the Interceptors on the bottom right-hand side of the table, going to be moving up to deal with those Sicarians down there.
Now, the interesting thing is that we're obviously setting up for multiple charges here. And if we don't activate the right thing at the beginning of the charge phase, those things can definitely interrupt and put a hurt on something.
Absolutely. But it looks like we just saw Quinn measuring out some lines of sight here. It's looking like he's going to try to squeak a line of sight with the Dread Knights into the Infiltrators. And if he can peel out a couple of those Infiltrators, the Infiltrators, then the melee interrupt from them isn't going to be that big of a deal. And then he can spend his charge attack fighting the Rust Stalkers, and with a massive number of 2 damage attacks, especially with that access to reroll once they hit and wound from the Prussian Brethren sub-faction stratagem, they have a very good chance of just knocking out almost the entirety of the Rust Stalker unit in one go. Although they do have a Tempor Cornucopia, so you're fighting last, actually. I just realized it could have
been overlooked.
It could be scary.
That could be something that our opponent may not be prepared for, and I would imagine if they're not, they would not be the first person that could get caught by that.
Yeah. If you have any of the non-Skitari Ad Mech units elsewhere in your army as well, so things like Tech Priests or Electro Priests, you also have access to the Tech Cult Fight Last stratagem as well. And so on top of Temporcopia, Ad Mech actually have access to 2 separate Fight Last effects, both of which can activate at the same time. So you can eat a charge in some Ad Mech builds and then Fight Last almost your opponent's entire army and then hit them, which makes them very difficult to engage into sometimes.
Yeah. Ad Mech's almost, it seems like their theme in this book has been it's very hard to charge me the way you want to.
Yes,
absolutely. We've all seen, 18 ponies or 27 ponies, however many it is.
Electroshocked. There it is, chat. Thank you.
The ponies that can run away when you charge them, all the fight lasts. We talked about it last round with our sisters, that things just don't quite work the way you would expect they would. Similar things happen with Ad Mech when you try to charge them. It's not quite as straightforward as you would normally expect it to be.
Yep. Now, I guess to be fair, The Temporacopia does proc within 3 inches, but it is 3 inches specifically of the unit holding the relic, which is the unit leader of the Rust Stalker unit. So what we may see here, assuming Quinn is aware of this relic, he could potentially couch his charge in such a way that the units engaged are not within 3 inches of that individual model. The unit is spread very far across the breadth of these 2 objectives, so it might require a pretty high charge roll to get him out on one side or another, but it is possible.
All right, let's see. Probably getting close to the second phase at this point, so we're casting Purify.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get live updates on what spells go off, or which ones fails from our tail boss. As obviously this could very easily make or break a Grey Knight's turn. If you go into it expecting certain things to happen and they don't, you could definitely, to say the least, get caught with your pants down in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely the highest variance in the Grey Knight army is that Psychic phase. They have so many powers that are absolutely brutal if they get off, and also go off on a 7. So you just got to take that coin flip that you get them off and use your abilities as best you can to try to confirm them. But sometimes you just don't get them, and it's too bad.
All right, we're getting updates on the Psychic phase as we speak, so we'll be able to update what's going on. So we passed 2 Purifies, which is the secondary one. They can every objective they can purify, they start farming points over the course of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Or course of the game.
Yeah, 1 point per objective, up to 3, I think, gets them 4, and then even more.
Well, I just don't want it over here.
Oh, that's so good.
All right, Paladins are getting +1 to their save, making them even more durable than they already are. Those are some chonky boys right now.
Ooh, that armored resilience going off. That unit is difficult to kill.
And then Vortex has gone off from the Dread Knight in the front. Vortex of Doom, I believe.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know how clustered we are up in there. I think it's mostly Vanguards. Can we switch to the other camera, actually? I bet there's...
I can. It's not great right now. We're going to have to fix it later.
All right, well, I believe. Everyone, send your mental energy to our camera here.
Unfortunately, it's right underneath this ruin, I believe. Oh, no, it's
the
over
top
here.
side, top side, yep. Yeah, so it looks like our Skitari are basically, that's essentially just the only unit up in there is going to be that Vanguard unit. But eating some damage and throwing some damage onto the Castle and robots doesn't hurt. Although we do have that Necro Mechanic to fully repair them, 3 wounds, if they don't die.
All right, Chad, I understand the video is a little glitchy right there. We're going to try to take care of that after this round, unfortunately. That's why I have not been aggressively switching the screens. All right, picking up some of those.
Yeah, we got a Grandmaster shot, it looks like, onto the infiltrators in the center, starting to pick them up. So again, if there is a potential for an interrupt from that unit, it's not going to do too much damage if there's only a couple guys left.
Avoid bearable. Yeah, the camera, I think, has 2 problems right now. It got bumped, and we have overloaded our switch that everything is plugged into, and I'm going to take care of that after this round. It appears to have deteriorated from the first round, so I apologize for that. It will be cleaned up, I promise. Luckily, we have this beautiful overhead camera to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Shuma, I am not sure if the problem with the player audio is in the lapel mics themselves or in our switchboard. So that is going to take a little more playing around with. If we are too loud for you guys, I can definitely turn down our gains. Please let me know. Trev and I are more than glad to play with it.
Is the player mic still on stream?
The player mic should be off. Yeah. All right. I turned our gains down, so if that made it better or worse, please let us know. We're trying to kind of fine-tune things as we go. We did a classic mistake. We bought brand new everything 4 days before the event, so that's on us.
It's okay. It's only Friday. Friday's the trial run.
Yeah, we can only go up from here, right, Trevi?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for the feedback, chat. We appreciate it.
All right, so Strike smited one Ruststalker. The back dread smited the Infiltrators. That's where that 1.5 died from. Second phase is done, and now we're Storm Boltering the Infiltrators. That's what this large pile of dice is. I'm glad it improved, guys. Thank you for that feedback. I'm sure by MCM next year, I'll be an expert on the soundboard. I don't know exactly what it does.
I believe. So Infiltrators down to a single bottle. You can see in the center there with their damage dial right next to it.
That's how you get ants, right, Shuma? All right, so all the Infiltrators are gone. What is it? Is this? What is that? All right.
So starting to lose some
pulling back
Skitarii
layers of the onion,
vanguards as well.
right?
Yeah, slowly but surely. This counterattack, I mean, depending on how this fight on the bottom right goes, I think that's going to really define how this turn goes for the Grey Knights. If they're able to knock out those Ruststalkers in the bottom right-hand side of the table, I think this will have been a dramatic recovery from that mistake on the first turn.
What we appear to be seeing, as our table boss is confirming, is that this is what you can do when you have 40 models with Storm Bolters, as you can just start spraying bullets into infantry.
It turns out when your opponent's entire army is mostly just T3 idiots,
40 Storm Bolters does
they
things.
will die to Storm Bolters very quickly. As we saw in the endless number of Grey Knight Drukhari matches in the tail end of last year, anytime you have that volume of fire, those lightly armored factions tend to get seriously hurt by them. Oh, what a roll that was. And there goes that last Infiltrator in the center. Almost would have liked to see that, to use that guy to charge.
Like it's almost like the springboard charge. Get them and use it to just get free movement after the fact. Or are you talking about something else?
What's that?
I was saying, are you talking about the springboard charge? You charge something, wipe it, and use it as like free movement to get past it.
Yeah. You could just get at least, 2 or 3 additional inches up the table and put yourself in range to threaten the right-hand objectives if you need to. So Jason actually very graciously allowing Quinn to go back there a little bit. Quinn forgot to cast some spells with one of his characters in the back, and Jason said, that's fine, and let him cast his buffs out. So that's nice.
Victor talking about the Infiltrator's no rerolls aura. That could be a large factor of why the Ad Mech player wanted to kind of yeet them forward a bit and just kind of aggressively maybe push that aura over the Grey Knights.
Yeah, definitely is effective, especially because of that Pressure Brethren strat, making things a little bit more awkward. Not to mention the fact that turns off Hammerhand as well, I believe, which is pretty sad.
All right, looks like we're getting all these charges down here, and we'll see if the
so we're
Tempercopia plays out.
We're firing all the every single Stormbolter.
Oh, we have more Stormbolters.
I think we're firing every Stormbolter together right now.
I thought we had more. I thought the Stormbolters were over.
Yeah, Victor Von Champ with a cheer. Nice, buddy.
Yes, sportsmanship always a premium. This is a death or glory event. Those of you who may not have heard of our organization, sportsmanship, playing with intent, making sure both players walk away from the table having had a good time. Very, very huge themes that we try to have at our events for sure. So glad to see that happening.
It is nominally death or glory, but the only way to score death and glory is to lose, but do so because you are gracious to your opponent.
There you go.
Then you get both.
So our table boss is confirming, yes, there were still more Stormbolters this year.
There's always more Stormbolters. This is a Grey Knights army. There's nothing but Stormbolters.
So I was ready for the mine bullets. I wasn't ready for the real bullets.
Yeah. That's how they get you. They lull you into a false sense of security. They're doing the Charles Xavier, like, finger to the head thing, and then they shoot you with a gun.
Well, I guess
so
no spoilers. I guess as long as we're Scarlet Witch is not on the other side of the table, Charles Xavier is a safe choice still.
Although, I don't think Charles Xavier had a gun in that situation. Would have been much better. Just a regular gun.
I'm going to guess probably not. You're right.
So it looks like two Rust Stalkers, get taken out in the bottom right there. Reducing the size of that unit, which again could make it more difficult to get away from the Temporcopia guy, which means that there's a pretty good chance they get locked in that fight last.
We're now firing storm bolters into the servitors. All right. Shuma, yeah. It was definitely a pistol, not a card. You're absolutely correct. That appears to be the theme that we're seeing here. So yeah, now we're taking out some of those random servitors, either trying to clear some gate space or clear some backfield objective holders, so that we'll have to commit some more meaningful units to that. Again, when you got this many bolter shots, I guess you can kind of afford to shoot some of the useless servitors. It doesn't really matter that much. We got plenty of bullets to go around the table.
And especially clearing out those little objective holding units it's always useful. The most annoying thing in 40K is when you're trying to secure your primary objective points and your opponent has one model out of several different units alive.
Yeah.
So just confirming kills on them, even if it seems totally superfluous, is so important.
We stressed it in the first round. You know, you win by points. You need models. You need units to hold things to get points. So we start thinning that down.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually it will add up.
Yeah.
Seems like such a rudimentary concept, but honestly, it seems like something people just lose sight of frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if with how dangerous those Sicarians are, you don't need to shoot every gun into them. You're going to engage them in melee. They are relatively resilient to shooting, especially in cover, because they have a 3+ save. And if you can get an easier shot into something that is more easily wiped out, you're just going to do that. And it looks like we are wiping some of these T3 infantry off the table pretty quickly.
There are dramatically fewer models than there were a few minutes ago.
Quickly too. Oh my god. How excited are you to see these Castle and Robots tune up next turn too? Though?
Oh, I want to see just something disappear. Honestly, they could shoot the back of the infiltrators or the back of the Rangers at this point. I'd be fine with it. I just want to see something go away. The interesting thing is, even if they're going to still double tap here, they do not have a dramatic number of things to choose from the position they're currently in.
Yeah. Now, is it the Grandmaster in the center of the table there? It looks like he has a hammer, so I imagine that's the Grandmaster, and it's the standard Dread Knight that's in the back.
We are confirming with our table boss. All right, we're now charging. The Interceptors are starting the charge phase by charging the Servitors. I'm going to guess the Servitors are not going to win that fight.
Yeah. Goodbye, Skitari. Everyone in there is going to be murdered. Theoretically, they do have that 6-up Bionic save. So it is a Grandmaster in the center. Okay, so the Dread Knight in the obscuring terrain on the right-hand side of the table is the standard, which means that, unfortunately, I don't think that that Dread Knight is going to consequentially be vaporized by Phosphor Blaster fire because he'll teleport away.
Yep. As much as I'd love to see it.
They do have an almost perfect profile to kill specifically Dread Knights. They wound on 4s and they put them directly back onto their invulnerable save at AP2.
And that's a lot of dice.
And it's a lot of dice. That must be an attack that feels real good for the Ad Mech player to roll out. They're just like, here you go. Take 30 invuln saves. I'm like, all right, well, guess I die.
It's always I've had similar things happen with my Talius where I have some units that are like, the unit's not always good, but there are some games where it's so good, I'm just glad I have it. And I feel like you kind of get that with like the Castellans. Like they're not good at everything, but there are going to be certain matchups where they're going to just beautifully line up with what you want to shoot at.
Yeah, they're kind of a 90-10 sort of unit. They're in 10% of the games, they're worth 90% of the work.
The good old Sex Panther.
Mm-hmm.
70% of the time it works every time. All right, so 5-man interceptor charges the fight last Ruststalkers.
There's the fight last. Yeah, Temporcopia does trigger. Oh, but 2 units got in, so one of them's going to get to swing first regardless. That's going to be pretty sad for our
And we don't have any way to use
Ruststalker
that
friends
strat
over
you were
here.
talking about to make both of them fight last.
Yeah, no. It unfortunately, it's keyworded such that the Skitarii units can't use it. It's only your non-Skitarii
Okay.
Mechanica.
Well, it definitely seems like our Great Knight player knew what was coming and
He was
appropriately applied resources to handle that exact problem.
I also think I want to give a shout out that it is a 10-man intercessor unit or an interceptor unit.
Or it was.
Well, that was the Ruststalkers getting cut down.
Sorry.
Yeah, it turns out those 2 damage 4 swords very good against 2 wound infantry.
Especially if those infantry are really basing their survival on not getting
right.
attacked first.
Please, not the face.
Yeah.
All right, swinging into the Vanguards in the center now. Got that rerolls from the Grandmaster. Jason is bemoaning his casualties this turn.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes
There
a
goes
few.
some guys in the center there. Ooh. Now, I think we have to be able to knock one of these Dread Knights out, I think, in this turn. It's probably the case that the strikes or the interceptors in the center are going to get taken out by whatever. It could be Castellans charging them, I think. But if Jason can finagle a shot into the non-Grandmaster Dread Knight, then he has the potential to clip out a lot of remaining Grey Knights, because he's already killed 10, right? He can get at least another 5 to 10 this turn. If he gets that and a Dread Knight, Quinn really only has the Grandmaster to threaten the core of his army, and the remainder of those Grey Knights on the bottom right-hand side are going to have to spend a turn moving across the no man's land in the center of the table before they're even able to get in. So I think Jason's at a situation here where he needs to divide and conquer the Grey Knight's army. He needs to be able to sort of refuse flank those units that committed into the bottom right-hand side, deal with the stuff that's in front of him. He'll just have to eat the fight from the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight the coming turn, but if he can weather that storm, he's going to be in a much better position the subsequent turn.
So I guess my question is, the teleporting thing on the Grandmaster only works when you shoot it, I believe.
It's only when you shoot it.
Okay.
If you charge it, it doesn't do anything.
So I wonder if we're in the we need to charge the Grandmaster with some melee doctrine. I forget what it's called. The melee thing.
We do have that punchy
yeah.
fist on those Castellans.
Yeah. We gotta go to a weapon skill 2, the extra attack on everything. Like that'll add up pretty quickly. 3 damage. You don't have to fail too many saves for the 3 damage to start getting through.
I mean, fortunately, he does have that Servant of the Throne to pop the 3+ invulnerable save.
Yep.
But to be fair, I mean, using that in a single fight phase is a lot better for, as the Ad Mech player, than him using it to tank an entire shooting phase.
Yeah.
Although, engaging into that guy and not killing him is going to make things really awkward, because he does potentially have the profile to knock out, I mean, if not all of the guys, the Castellans there, then he'll certainly deal a lot of damage to the unit. So we did see that strike squad tag or touch one of the Castellans, and we just talked about how annoying it is when you don't have melee weapons in this unit, and these guys do. Wasn't quite able to base that Castellan on the end there, so we're going to half-inch chain into the entire unit. Oh, no. Grey Knight's not like this.
If you've been able to just touch the one on the end, I think most of this doesn't happen. You maybe get one guy that can punch at that point.
Yep. Yeah.
Or 2 guys at most. But
I think, you certainly would have locked the last guy on the side there out from being able to attack. Well, Jason's saying he's not rolling too hot right now. Only 4 wounds go through?
The armor contempt, knocking that down in AP. Looks like we still lose 3 guys.
Kills 3 guys. Yeah, but that will keep the unit engaged.
Yep, they only needed one guy there, so
Ooh,
it's fine.
that's awkward.
Yep. That is not what those Castellans needed. They needed to be free to go handle some problems next turn. They've now had their next turn dictated to them, and that is not what they wanted.
Yeah. At the very least, they can. We should see a consolidate here, but we won't, I guess. To put more models into the fight. Not that it makes a huge difference, but theoretically, they should just wipe those 2 Strike Marines. And then if we keep the Sigil of Exigence guy there and don't target him with any ranged attacks, they could charge into that guy.
So the Castellan robots do get to shoot in the shooting phase, is what you're saying, right? Even though they look like infantry, they're still they can shoot.
Yeah, they're vehicles, right? So they can fire using big guns never tire. Yeah. The awkward part is that big guns never tire requires each model to be engaged. Right. So those 2 that are in the back of that fight are not going to be able to fire.
So if the ideal scenario, as you're explaining, is 2 guys can shoot those 2 guys off the table, then the unit can still be free to charge the Grandmaster in the melee phase.
Absolutely.
Not guaranteed to work out in either of those scenarios. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
As you're explaining, only 2 guys getting to shoot is not the math you want in that situation to free up that unit.
Yeah, if one of those Strike Marines survives just randomly, especially since you're firing at -1 to hit, shooting in melee, with the Phosphor Blasters, unless they're assault, actually. Are they? They might be.
I've got them right here. Heavy.
Oh, yeah. So they will be -1 to hit shooting in melee. So you could flub that, right? And actually, only a 4+ base ballistic skill on those guys, so unless you buff it,
yeah,
it's a
as
non-zero
you had talked
chance
about last
flub
time,
it.
he was planning to set up this turn to lock down, double shoot, whatever he wanted to do.
Right.
If he goes ahead and tries to use a Data Smith to switch them into the Conqueror Protocol for melee, then he'll be shooting at BS4 with a -1 to hit. If he wants to go ahead and put them in the double shot to try to make sure he can clear these guys out in the shooting phase, then they're not allowed to charge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, he's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in a lot of ways. All right, we're now up to turn 2. So currently we have a close game. We got 17-16 right now. Grey Knights are ahead. I think, Trevor, you would probably agree with me that right now the Grey Knights seem to be in a more commanding position on the table, at least, despite the closeness of the scores. We've talked about board control, just kind of dictating what your opponent has to do on their turn. The Ad Mech player is not in a position to do everything they want to do right now. So they're going to have to figure out what can they prioritize and what can they manage to piece together in one turn to hit a return punch of sorts. Okay, so we have used an ability on the Castellans to let them fall back and shoot and charge, which solves the problem we were talking about.
There you go. Their movement is a little bit constrained by the units in the way there. I'd like to see... how many can get into range of that far Dread Knight that's in the Grey Knight's deployment zone?
Was poking its little foot around the corner in your top right. All right, but we do need to, we peel back a few layers as we talked about on the first turn. We need to take a big bite out of the onion this turn. I think we need to remove some significant pieces, not just a few resources here and there this turn.
Yeah, I know for sure. We're certainly going to kill the Strike Marines in the center. My hope is that we can find a way to kill that Dread Knight that peeked its nose out, and hopefully, if not kill, at least mitigate one or two of the squads that are sort of fighting around the fringes. But if you can do that, I think the Adeptus Mechanicus aren't in a terrible spot this game.
All right, I have another onager trundling across the bottom of the table. Jason is playing Mars, Victor. He is playing the good old Martian Forge World.
Yeah, exclamation point lists in chat. We'll get you to the chat as well. So if anybody wants to read along with those, you can find them there.
All right, so we see some of these Ballistari moving up across. I think this is where that damage into the Grey Knight on the far side table is going to come from.
Yeah, the awkward part is, as we talked about, the efficiency of those Cognus Las cannons, getting essentially full rerolls on using the Canticle plus Martian sub-faction benefit. The awkward part is firing that low-volume weapon into a 4+ invulnerable save. Sometimes just spikes really badly for you. Sometimes it spikes well and your opponent fails every save, but it feels like that happens less often than you like.
I lost a very close game at a tournament 2 weeks ago or so, where I had made some mistakes in secondaries and things like that, and I had put the game in the fate of the dice based on decisions I had made incorrectly. And sometimes when you do that, your opponent doesn't fail a 4-up invuln for a turn and a half on a 1-win model. Sometimes that just happens. All right. Looks like this may be the heal. Oh, no, these are shots. We're shooting the 2 strike squads there in the middle.
Yep. So we're firing from the characters right now.
We don't want to waste any efficient shots if we don't have to. We'd rather see if we can plink these guys away. There are a number. I'm looking at the table here. Jason has done a good job lining up his larger units to have line of sight to that Dread Knight in the back. This Onager definitely has line of sight, I believe, right past this edge right here to this guy. And then we see 3 here on the left side. That there's a nice gap in between their 2 ruins in the middle of the table. That at least I think the Ballisteri can see the Grey Knight in the top right. I don't know if the Onager is going to be able to or not. But this is going to come down to, again, can we kill the things we need to with the number of shots we can afford to put at them?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start having to shoot things you didn't want to, you can quickly fall behind in that kind of trading game as you start losing the ability to dedicate the resources you need.
So it looks like a bunch of pot shots going into these Strike Marines in the center, not killing them. They have weathered the storm on good and vulnerable saves. That Armor of Contempt coming in clutch several times. Here comes Onager Gene Crawlers firing.
All right, yes, our table judge saying that the those strike squads managed to just roll 5 and 6 on basically everything, which sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Normally you talk about that spiking as an invulnerable save, but this is an armor save we're doing now. Finally, they get taken out. Oh, whoa. I know Jason was getting a little bit sad about the dice there, saying he'd be pretty upset if that unit survived. Finally, he did get them, but I think that was more shots than he would have liked. And he could have tried to squeak some shots into other strike squads that are going to be annoying going into the future.
All right, and unfortunately, Chad, our dice cam appears to have been bumped by the players, and
a little bit on center there.
Edges of the screen may not be visible. We apologize for that. We will fix that before the next round. This is this is something I imagine doesn't happen when you have TTS tournaments.
It doesn't.
Players cannot mess up your operation.
Well, don't put it past them. They'll find a way.
They can find a way.
Players always find a way. But we do have a strike squad on the top left-hand side that's starting to take some damage from stubber shots. I don't think this Castellan unit is fired yet, which is going to be the big one. I have to imagine you just target the Grandmaster, right? And you say, you must sigil now, otherwise you will probably die.
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, that's fair. Unless the question is he just doesn't want to give him a chance to leave and just hopes he gets to kill him with the 3-up. But then, as you said, or the 3 damage, but then as you said, he's hoping he just rolls enough to overcome a 3-up invuln, which that could be asking a lot, for sure.
Now, there are times in 40K where sometimes you do have to just, believe in the heart of the dice.
Yeah.
And leave things up to chance, but the later in the game you can do that, the better.
Yeah. Turn 2 does seem like an early turn to just put it all out there and hope it works.
Especially since if you leave the Sigil of Exigence this turn and you charge that guy, you allow him to eat the attacks, maybe you pop his Servant of the Throne, whatever, but the Sigil of Exigence is then still active. So you can't shoot him on future turns. You have to rely on melee, because otherwise he can bounce away another turn.
Let's see. All right, so Victor pointing out the crushing weight strat, pulling that up right now. So the Castellans, when they finish a charge, can select one enemy unit in engagement range, roll d6 for each of the models that got there, and then 2 up, they can do a mortal wound. So that could lower the number of 3-ups that have to be failed for sure. If we could get all 4 of them directly into an engagement range with the Grandmaster, just high probability to do at least 3 mortal wounds, which is a whole extra hit right there.
Yep.
So that could definitely be part of the plan.
Yeah, Jason has 7
here.
CP remaining right now, so I mean, if he does go for that, he certainly has it as a play available to him.
I'm also going to imagine you don't bring Castellan robots to a tournament without knowing all the strats they can
Right,
use for
yeah.
sure.
You have to be a Castellan robot aficionado, I think.
Yeah. So I would not be surprised if we saw that if his plan is that he wants this thing gone now. But as you said, Trevi, that is eggs in basket at the very least.
Yeah.
Because I think we were all in agreement that if that doesn't work, that hammer is tuned up pretty well for Castellans. That's going to hurt Castellans, the big D3+3 hammer.
Yep.
Still probably 2 attacks each to kill a guy, but so assuming Castellans are 8 wounds, right?
So it looks like we just fired a Vanguard unit into the strike squad in the center there, used a Wrath of Mars to convert 4 additional mortal wounds onto them, and picked them up.
Yeah, Ranger Wrath of Mars into the Interceptors.
Oh, that was Rangers, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big deal, because that was going to be one of the units that was ready to, hey, we got the crushing charge strat being used here, chats. We just talked about it.
But so unfortunately, it looks like we had 2 ones.
I don't think he's rolled.
Oh, I thought these were the 4 dice up there.
No, those were the saves against the mortal wounds from Wrath of Mars, actually. Oh, it's 1 damage goes through from that. Ugh. That's not what you want. He does have 12 damage left, which is 4 converted wound rolls from the 3 damage swing, but we need some insane dice to happen here, I think, to actually kill this guy through Servant of the Throne. And again, it doesn't look like Jason had the shots to go into the other Dread Knight or the Grandmaster himself. So the Grandmaster still has that Sigil of Exigence live.
I'm not sure what the Ballistari shot at then, unless they shot at whatever this Onager and them are charging at the moment.
Yeah, he might have needed them to clear the... I think there's 1 Strike Marine left up in that top left-hand side.
Yeah, I mean, there must be. They're charging something.
Yeah.
Check with our table boss, see what's there. Charging 1 Interceptor, maybe? Or Strike Marine? All right, I'm here for this this robot fight in the middle. I want to see it.
Can we switch to our sketchy cam?
We can try. Let's go to the sketchy cam.
Let's go to sketchy cam for the robot fight.
All right, we see that there's a hug here. There's a danger hug going on.
Dude, Castellan robots are nothing if not hug machines.
Yeah, so 2 vehicles and a Data Smith charged the 1 strike that was left up in the top ruin.
Will that be enough? Probably not. I don't know if those Data Smiths are any good at fighting.
All right. Here we go. Here it is. I can't handle this sketchiness. I need to see this in its glory.
So we did use the electroshock from the Castellans.
There's an interceptor they're charging, not a strike.
Yep. To stop the Dread Knight from interrupting. Oh, that wound roll looked good.
Let's see it. I want to see it.
So we put them back. We put them into their melee profile, their melee protocol. Oh, but that looked like some good saves. Is that two going
like two
through?
Fail we pulled out. Looks like a reroll on one of them, perhaps. Just not wanting to take the damage. So we may have only taken 3 there. It appears.
Looks like only 3 went through. So he took a grand total of 4 damage from that. But that is Servant of the Throne popped. Although I think that Grandmaster's about to go ham. We do have 4 CP on Quinn's side of the table. He can use the stratagem because the Grandmaster does have a teleporter to teleport out of melee, fall back, shoot, and charge. He loses his psychic casts, but he's able to come back in and swing his big hammer first. The cybernetic Datasmith, does have a power fist.
Okay.
So he could punch that guy for 3 damage.
I mean, this charge into the strike in the top left may have been more one of the charges you were talking about. We want to get some things into position.
We're just crossing our fingers up there.
Yeah, I think that charge is a bit superfluous because if this first one didn't work out, that one was not going to matter a lot anyway because the Grandmaster was going to walk around and do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
So.
To be fair, I mean, getting rid of, I guess it is an interceptor, so it's not objective secured. So you are taking the objective away from them anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. So just getting 2 things to charge him is probably 2 things that he can't kill by himself in combat.
Yep.
Is good enough there. And apparently all the characters whiffed into the interceptors, or all the units whiffed into the interceptors. We thought there was 1. Let's clarify.
So here comes the Grandmaster swinging back into the robots. What do we see here? 4 wounds going through on those guys.
And there is just a single interceptor in their chat.
So 1 robot down so far. And a second robot down, yeah. Just bonks 2 of those, the hug bots on the head, puts them to sleep.
Yep.
Night, boys.
That was the, as Trevi alluded to, that was the possible outcome when you go eggs in basket. Sometimes your eggs get scrambled.
We were just putting them all in, pushing our chips to the middle of the table, saying, can you make 10 3+ vulnerable saves? Quinn said, how's 9 out of them? And Jason said, yeah, that seems fine. Would you like to kill some robots? And Quinn said, yes, thank you. I'd love to.
And you would like to say that, well, at least the Grandmaster is like locked down or he's going to be there for next turn or whatever. That's just not true. If he wants to leave, he can definitely leave.
That teleporter strat, very good.
Yeah.
And I think to rub things in, we did kill a lot of the infantry this turn. So we're down to, I believe, only the 15 models in the bottom right-hand corner. I think all of the other power armor infantry are dead. But we do have the other Dread Knight available. He's untouched. The Grandmaster is basically untouched, and all those Paladins are still there.
I do appreciate all of the car crash noises that chat gave us for that robot fight.
Chat is
you guys know what's up.
Chat is the soundboard we never knew we needed. I like Quinn's measuring stick here too. His tape measure.
Is that like one of the ones from a starter box? I didn't even notice. It's like the actual rod that they used to sell.
Yeah. It's just an interesting color. Oh, it's like flexy. Is it a fabric measure? We have a fabric measure man over here?
Well, you gotta find your way to put your own stamp on it, right?
Yeah. It's no Matt Laura Taylor Swift like monograms tape measure, but it's close enough. So here come the interceptors from the bottom right hand side, pushing in. Gonna probably just clean up those Rangers pretty easily. I think Quinn hoping that he can kill them with shooting and then charge into the character back there. We'll see. Those characters are kind of lethal.
Yeah.
Every one of them has a pretty terrifying ranged attack. They don't typically shoot a lot, But if you have 3 or 4 characters sitting in the back, each one of them kills a Strike Marine every turn. You lose Strike Marines pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we also just talked about it last round that at a certain point, if you just pull away these resources, we've already alluded to in this match requires you to stretch the board. If we're limiting it to, there's a couple individual model units, characters, vehicles, whatever, at the top left of the corner, and then there's a bunch of objectives on the bottom left, bottom right, top right. They're not going to be able to get over there.
Yeah.
So we appear to see Quinn setting up a board or trying to set up a board where he doesn't have to do a lot anymore because there's just not going to be enough things that can move around the table on Jason's side. It's rarely, as I'm sure many of you at home have come to find out, it's rarely necessary to kill everything on your opponent's side. You just need to kill the things that can go and interact with you. If they only have things that don't bother you, then it just doesn't matter anymore.
So Grandmaster using that teleporter to hop around, fire into the character there. So between the interceptors on the bottom right, as well as the Grandmaster, we may be able to pick up that whole group of models in the Ad Mech models in the center, and then charge back into the Castellans to finish the unit off. So I think, we needed to do a little bit more damage on Jason's last turn.
Yeah, and Victor, Trevi's comment there may have just answered your question. I think it is problematic for Jason when he loses such important units on his own turn.
Right.
And then Quinn immediately got to start his turn and then pile on top of that.
Yeah.
Putting him behind the 8-ball.
I don't think I agree with the decision to charge the Grandmaster. I think if it
had worked, then it would have worked.
If it had worked, we would have been standing up and cheering here.
Yeah.
But it was
I
unlikely.
think the math was never in favor of it, for sure.
And that's why that Grandmaster build is so good, and it's why it's, kind of the cornerstone of Grey Knight lists. He's so hard to pin down. He hits so hard. He's got lots of access to rerolls, very powerful psychic powers, good shooting. He's just the full package.
All right, so we're beginning the psychic phase. We'll get the update from our table boss. We have 2 rituals that have gone off so far. Which again, that's the Grey Knight secondary, just as kind of farm points over the course of the game. All right, Paladins once again got +1 armor. And I believe the Paladins are the things above the midfield top ruin.
Yep, right in the middle. They're slowly but surely. They were stuck in that difficult terrain for a little bit.
Yep.
They're slowly but surely making their way to the objectives, but it's taking a while.
Yeah, I think they're about to go camp out on those 2 objectives under that top left ruin here in a minute or so. Once they get the ability to charge over there. They might go after these 2 robots first and just take them off the table. I imagine. I don't actually know the stats on Paladin, but I feel like they could probably do that, just based on what I've heard them to be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Sanctuary has gone off on the interceptor unit in the center of the table, which I believe is the one that just ran out from the ruins a moment ago.
So this looks like a Gate of Infinity. Boop. There he goes, right in the middle. Yeah, and I think that brings us from a position where Ad Mech could be trying to take advantage of the slow speed of the Grey Knight's army to sort of shave off units that they could get their grips on. But being able to shuffle that guy, I mean, he just moves 14 inches or so with that Gate of Infinity. Really puts a ton extra pressure on the Ad Mech side.
Yeah, this is the classic conundrum of playing against Grey Knights, is you can't ever really dictate where they go as easily as you want to.
Right.
They have so much flexibility in where they can put units on their turn.
Yeah.
Hard to pin them down.
They've done so much in recent releases, mitigating the sort of midterm redeploys or mid-game redeploys, so you don't necessarily need to be keeping your screens up for the entirety of the game, but Grey Knights are like the one exception to that, because you have teleport shunts, you have Gate of Infinity, you have Sigil Exigence, all these things that you could be triggered on you at any point. And if you start to lose those screening elements, which we're about to see here once these last few Ad Mech infantry go down. That makes things really tough. So we're using divinations from the Prescient Brethren now in the psychic phase to regenerate command points. And we're going to start firing units into those rangers in the center there. Starting with the Paladins. Let's go, Paladins. Daka, daka, daka.
And I think we're once again about to see the Stormbolter party fire up.
Mm-hmm. I think Jason reminding Quinn that he left some models in the back inside the ruin.
Again, love to see that sportsmanship. Hey, buddy, don't forget about this over here.
Yeah.
You could use it to kill me. It's okay. I just want you to play with it.
Technically, your unit's out of coherency. That was an illegal move.
Yeah.
I'm going to call a judge. So here come the Stormbolters.
All right. That looks like a relatively good conversion there.
Yeah, 9 wounds onto that Ranger unit. They are
those are not good numbers.
in cover, so not the end of the world, but looks like, yeah, starting to peel some models out. This shooting phase does feel a little bit superfluous, though. Although I think the important thing is going to be how much damage the Grey Knights can do to that character. If the character in the center goes down, that frees up the Grandmaster to go try to punch the Castellan robots. Yeah. And that's really, I think, the question mark for this turn. If those Castellan robots somehow survive another turn, maybe we spike some saves, then without Servant of the Throne active for that Grandmaster anymore, there is a potential they could punch him to death. There's certainly a universe in which the dice flip the other way. Quinn gets a little bit unlucky this turn. Doesn't kill the robots. It looks like we're going to start shooting into the robots, actually. And if that Grandmaster goes down too early, things could swing very wildly. Although it is unlikely.
That was not the start he wanted to make that happen.
Yeah.
So plinking away at it.
So we did cast the +1 damage psychic power onto those Castellans, so they are going to be taking 3 damage from each of those converted psi cannons, 2 damage from each silencer. Yeah, here we go with the silencer shots, although not great rolls on Quinn's side, only 2 wounds. Yeah, only planked a guy for 3 damage. Hopefully that takes a swing, or requires 1 less swing to kill the unit from the Grandmaster. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's what we saw the Castellans want to try to do with the crushing weight last turn. Single mortal, just reduce the number of attacks we need.
Right.
We can just drop it down to a single hammer is guaranteed to kill it. That would be perfectly fine for a Quinn.
Absolutely something that you should always be keeping in mind when you're considering your target priority in 40k is trying to assign units with wounds characteristics that are divisible by your weapon damage so you don't overkill them. And if they're not, you can try to shave those additional wounds off so that you can kill them in a more efficient manner. So it looks like a couple shots got reflected by the Castellan unit, but Quinn is making all of his 5+ ignore mortal wound ignores.
When it rains, it pours, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Can't have anything easy.
Absolutely. It is, a 5+ ignore on mortal wounds only doesn't feel like the biggest of faction abilities, except when you're relying on those mortal wounds to get damage through, and suddenly you're like, oh, I don't like this, actually. This sucks.
Yeah, confirming that the robots did bounce to mortals, but the Grandmaster saved literally every single one.
Yeah. So here come the charges. Interceptors going into that Ranger squad. Question is where this Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight's going to go. Is it going to go into the character, or is it going to go into the Castellans? I think it looks like we're going to try to get the Paladins in.
Does appear like it's going to be a hefty charge. Not automatic by any
Yeah, I
means.
think they've. So yeah, we're discussing which charge is going to come first. It looks like the players have measured out the Paladins need a 9-inch charge, confirming with the judge that the Grandmaster could engage both the robot and the character with one charge. There he goes. Do you Overwatch here with those Castellans? I guess not.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, I guess the
I don't feel like you don't have any synergies there that's going to make that do anything.
Yeah,
You get like 1 damage.
the Castellans do have another access to a fight last in the chamber here. But the awkward part was that we did make it in with the with the Paladin squad. Oh no!
Yeah, as I think I said a moment ago, sometimes when it rains, it pours. Trevi.
that is a Nemesis Demon Hammer hammering a rune inscribed nail into a robotic coffin there. Jeez. Maybe like if we fight last a Dread Knight and maybe plow into him, but now the Dread Knight fights last. The Paladins activate first and kill the whichever Castellan's engaging them, and then that Dread Knight just gets to go kill the character regardless.
That's such a good play by our Grants player, seeing that he could split the difference and be in range to get both of them at the same time. Very commonly, you'll see people just not even look for those things, just base my opponent's model with my model and just kind of start rolling dice. Very, very clever play here by our Grey Knights player.
So it looks like the fight last did go down. I don't know who it went down on. It looks like the Paladins fought last. Is that right? And now the Grandmaster.
This is it sounds like this might be the Grandmaster into the Manipulus.
Yeah,
right
the Grandmaster's hitting the character, turns him into a fine paste. He would go good on some spaghetti, I think. And here comes the Interceptors.
Yeah, the fight last did go on the Paladins to confirm. Not that there was any obvious other choice.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't internalized that the Castellan robots do have access to that stratagem, and that actually makes them a pretty difficult to deal with a bulwark. And it makes total sense that you would equip them with a melee weapon, because if they're constantly making you fight last, engaging into them is like just a death sentence.
Yeah.
But I believe we were in... Oh.
Yeah, that looks like most of the...
all the Rangers dead.
That is
that
what we would call the opposite of what we wanted.
Oh, no. So
right.
Grandmaster's already swung. Castellans are going to try to knock these Paladins out.
Yeah,
we'll see what they get done.
Castellans to start picking up the load right now.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
All right. Well, I think we picked up some Paladins.
Oh, man. Is that 3 down? Even through the Armor of Contempt?
Through Transhuman.
Oh, man.
That was some value there.
That is value. I don't know if Ad Mech, have what it takes to pull out of this. They do still have 3 Iron Striders left.
Yeah.
But man, am I getting sold on these Castellan robots right now? They are putting in work today.
They are. I feel like they're just one of those units that they're so iconic that when people do bother to put them on the table, they just have to overperform. They have to be impressive because that's what they're there to do.
And like we talked about, I think the people who do play them at a competitive level are very used to playing them, and can put them in these situations where they can really use their fight phase manipulation effects to the best of their ability.
I would not have come into an Ad Mech matchup. I have not played against it, I don't think, at all since the nerfs happened. would not have realized I had to worry so much about fight last everywhere on the table.
Yeah, it's a real strength of Adeptus Mechanicus for sure.
So it looks like we lost 2 Paladins, which 2 may not sound like a lot, but Paladins are pricey, so 2 of them adds up. Oh, but we've lost 1 robot.
So the wounded robot goes down.
So that trade's probably about even at that point. Still rolling. Those are, looks like maybe saves on the robot from a different weapon profile, or those could have been wounds on the robot. Looks like we're now moved on to ongoing combats, but I don't know. I guess that would have been the combats in the top left.
Mm-hmm. There's that one dude there still alive.
Yeah, no one could kill it. So there's 2 Ballistari and an Onager trying to kill a single Strike Marine.
Although to be fair, not the end of the world, because one of those things are just going to kill that guy in the shooting phase, and the rest of the brick is going to be free to shoot whatever it wants.
And you did what you wanted to. You got onto that objective, and there's 2 models on it to his 1. So
yeah, and especially with the big benefit of Purifying Ritual is that it doesn't care if you have enemy units touching the objective that you're purifying. Unlike almost every other action secondary in the game, because it's a psychic action.
Yep.
That
Psychic
one
actions are
dude
so
on that
weird.
objective is just he's just worth a point every turn.
I can't remember. Does Strike Marines, are they the OBSEC ones or not the OBSEC ones?
Strike Marines are objective secured.
Okay.
Interceptors are not.
So it doesn't matter if he's got 2 models on that unit. That 1 Strike Marine is holding it down.
Well, I think we said that was an interceptor top left, right?
Let's see. I'll scroll back up. Maybe it is interceptor. Oh yeah, it's interceptor. I apologize. Yeah, so I was right. We have stolen that objective back. that was what I thought was going on.
Grey Knight players really need to normalize like putting interceptors on flight stands or something so we can tell them apart.
I think if you showed me a 30 model army for Grey Knights, I don't know if I could tell you what any of them are called. I think some have halberds and some have swords, and that's about all I know.
They're either Terminators, Dread Knights, or Strike Marines.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. It's all the Grey Knight units. And Drago.
Him I recognize. I know who he is.
The shield guy. The one with the shield.
All right, we are now on top of 3, and we see Quinn is definitely starting to pull away, but it is Jason's turn. He does have a chance to try to crack back. We see a huge discrepancy, unfortunately, in the primary. Looks like seconders are relatively close. Players are kind of doing what they had hoped they would do based on what they picked, but getting held to a 0 and then a 4 is definitely not the position that Jason wanted to be in, especially not going first. I think he may have underestimated the Grey Knight's ability to quickly kind of redeploy mid-game to get to where he wanted to do with their varying ways of being speedy or teleporting or whatnot. Also, just apparently charging works perfectly well.
Charging is good, I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially, there are some interesting profile mismatches here. All the force weapons, for example, like there's a lot of strength 5, strength 6, 2 damage into T3 2 wounds, which means that those multi-wound Sicarians get murdered by force weapons very quickly.
Well, and even beyond those profiles, you mentioned earlier the 40 infantry that are all T3 1 wound.
Right.
We've got 30 storm. We have as many storm bolters as there are infantry
Right.
that don't want to get shot by storm bolters.
Yeah. Can each of you survive 4 shots? Maybe not.
If you do, you deserve to be promoted at the very least.
Yeah.
And I also love this non-Dreadmaster or Grandmaster Dread Knight here in the middle of the table. I don't really feel like Jason is in a position that he can worry about that right now. And
Right.
And Quinn has got it in the perfect position to whatever Jason does this turn, that Dread Knight can walk to one of those 2 sets of objectives and hopefully start harassing whatever Quinn may put over
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Or Jason may put over there.
Yeah, that was why I was sad we didn't see it get taken out by the ranged attacks last turn, and I am sad that it was able to get gated into the center of the table, and I'm good, thank you, and be put into a position where it does threaten every relevant part of the table.
Yeah, as always, I've seen happen to many. I'm sure it's happened to you. It's happened to me. I've seen it happen to many players. You have your cool model, your important model, your big model, whatever. You play over defensive with it. It's out of position for the late game. Can't catch up to where it
Absolutely.
needs to be. All right, so the robots have fallen back. The hurt one, or the single robot, has fallen back. The Necro Smith, I think was what we called it, has healed it up, and it can also still shoot and charge. So he's gonna keep trying to get the value he can out of this Castellan, but obviously 1 is less than 4.
Yeah,
So.
and we have to keep in mind that Sigil of Exogen's still live. So if we start piling shots into him, he's just going to leave. So an Iron Strider just converted a las cannon shot into the single strike marine inside the building. It exactly kills him.
Put him on that was going to be an easier way to kill it than kicking it with a chicken foot, probably.
Yes, but between Armor of Contempt and cover, he's on a 4+ save. There's a very good chance he didn't die there.
Armor of Contempt apparently matters.
That's real tough. That's tough to get through.
I've slightly off topic. I got to play against Thousand Suns in cover with a crisis unit that all had double burst cannon.
Yeah.
And apparently that does 0 damage.
Yeah, here you go. Would you like to take infinite 2+ saves? Yes, thank you. I didn't roll any 1s. All right, well, good for you.
Our Armor of Contempt on some of these, especially in cover, it really becomes a very different math than I think people are used to.
It's real good.
It's going to take some acclimation. I'm assuming that was a teleport.
There is a Sigil of Exogen's trigger.
Looks like we're putting it.
Yep, here he goes. Oh, yeah. So that's the aggressive Sigil right there. We put him right in charge range of your opponent's scariest units. There it is. And that last cannon over there has already fired.
I think this is the 40k version of Come At Me, Bro.
Yeah. Oh, no, just kidding. He teleported again.
I think if he could have gotten within outside of 9 but around the corner of that building so that the stuff at the bottom couldn't shoot, I think that's really what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that second Cognis Las Cannon was in range, and that's a little bit too risky, especially since he's been tuned up a little bit. He's only down to 8 wounds, I think. So eating a Cognis Las Cannon shot, if you spike low on your saving throws and you have no CP to reroll, he just dies. That would be bad. So we're not going to do that. Fair enough.
And Quinn is absolutely in a position where at this point he needs to just not lose the game.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to take unnecessary, risky, aggressive plays when you're already ahead.
Yeah.
Jason has to find a way to get back into it. Quinn just needs to make sure he doesn't give it to Jason unnecessarily.
Absolutely. So I think the hope here now is, we're sort of back to where we were last turn. We've got to kill all the infantry that are in the center of the table, relieve that forward momentum and that pressure that's on your big tanks. There's not a ton that's in charge range of the Dread Knights right now, which is good, but they do deal a lot of damage in shooting. So you have to eat a turn of shooting and then hope you can swing back. But there's not a lot of damage on those Dread Knights. Not really enough to be appreciable and allow them to get one shot.
We're also there's a math problem on the table that I'm noticing, Trevi.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game, we had a dramatically higher number of Ad Mech models than Grey Knight models.
Yes.
And we have now reached a point where they are either about the same number of models on both sides, or there may be more Grey Knight models. And I feel like anytime you get in a game where there are more Grey Knight models on the table than whatever you're playing, that's bad math.
Yep. Things aren't looking great for you.
Grey Knights are not an army that typically gets to outnumber whatever they're playing against.
Absolutely. Oh, and I think we might get a better angle on it if we go to the sketchy cam.
Sketchy cam. All right, I'm trying it out.
But I believe there are still some paladins alive. Yeah, there they are in the top.
There should be 3 left. Yeah.
Right in the top there. Yeah, those I think were easy to. Oh, but now there's 2.
Okay. Well, I jinxed it.
That should be. Yeah, that's hopefully we can pick those guys up with the las cannons, but you can't forget about those guys because they're easy to miss in that top down. They blend into the objective really nicely.
We will address the sketchy cam before round 3, chat. I promise. We will do what we can to address it at the very least. Bulwark asking what we think the Ad Mech player may have done wrong in this game. I think the biggest one for both of us is the eggs and basket moment.
Yeah, just trying to kill a Grandmaster Dread Knight through a 3+ vulnerable save with melee attacks. Probably not the right call.
Just because he immediately lost 2 of his clearly primary unit in the way this game played out.
And I don't know where their shooting went, but I have to imagine that, with their buffs active, that unit probably just kills a Dread Knight, right? If they just unload into
They
it.
could have just gone downfield.
Yeah, I think they could have.
A resource.
They could have eaten the Sigil of Exigence, force that guy to reposition, kill the other Dread Knight, or at least cripple it so you can kill it, with something else later on. And once you're in this game state with no Sigil on the table and one Dread Knight half dead, you're feeling much better. And that didn't happen. Yeah, everyone, please prepare your virgin sacrifices for Sketchy Cam.
Let's see. The gamer Craft Dragon saying he didn't feel like he focus fired. Yeah, I think that's kind of going along with what we said. We feel like there's a little bit of splitting of focus, trying to take out multiple things at once where we could have baited a resource that allows us to focus down something else instead of trying to power through the really powerful Grandmaster.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to focus fire against this particular style of Grand Knight's list because you don't, purposefully, you don't have a lot of big units that your opponent can shoot at, right? You have a lot of individual 5-mains and stuff like that. And the times where Jason didn't kill those units cleanly, there goes that freaking Castle Robot punching that last Paladin to death as well. These robots, man. 2 robots killed an entire Paladin squad.
I also believe, according to our table boss, I think the Chaplain was over there with the Paladins, and I think the Chaplain might still be engaged with the robot.
Oh, is it? Sketchy Cam, save us.
We'll see if we can see it.
Chaplain.
There were 6 models there when they were behind the midfield ruin.
Oh, yeah. There's one little man right there.
Yep. So that may have been the Chaplain he killed. Now he's piled into the remaining Paladin.
Oh, gotcha. Sure. Well, either way, feels good.
Good. No, he needed to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Out of the 4 Grey Knights on the objective, that Castle Robot killed 3 of them. So, seems okay.
Yeah. But again, I think that goes back to why we feel like maybe if you're getting this much value out of it, if we had 4 instead of 2.
Yeah. Yeah, if we were in the same position, and there were 2 more Castle Robots on the table, you're feeling way better. Castle robots are cool. I'm into it.
Yeah, they're such a fun, cool model. Like there are models you hate losing to because you think they're dumb, they're annoying, they're overpowered, whatever.
Right.
I guess at the end of, or maybe there was a period in 8th, I think, where the Castellans were broken and everyone was spamming them. But for the most part, they're just a fun model to play against. Like they're just cool and they look like that cool retro vibe, and it's just neat.
They also their power level changed dramatically depending on the amount of terrain on the table, too. And in 8th edition, there was not a lot of terrain. But now we're playing with a ton of terrain, and the focus was to make the castles better at fighting, fighting in melee. And that's certainly paid dividends for Jason here.
Well, you also, it's so much harder to get mad at a unit where it's like, I'm taking a little bit of melee, a little bit of shooting. Like, we're just kind of like we're going to be a utility knife here.
Jack of all trades, yeah.
I have been on the receiving end of, I don't remember what it is, but at some point I guess they could do like 150 shots or something.
Yep.
I've been on, that was less fun to play against. I would love to play against cool robots that want to both punch me and shoot me.
Yes. I did, the first time I ever played against them, I lost 20 Gene Stealers in Overwatch.
Yep.
I was like,
that sounds like a thing.
I see the combo now. I will not do that again.
Yep.
We learned very quickly. So here come the Interceptor Squad moving to Quinn's home objective. It's not where you want to see them.
We are continuing to try to force that 0 down the throat.
Yeah. And especially with this mission being so contingent on that home objective, because we didn't really talk about it in this game, but the bonus point for this mission is to perform an action on your home objective, and it scores you based on the number of objectives you control at the end of your turn. But if you have enemies on your home objective, you're not able to perform that action, so you lose out on it.
So
and that is one of the ways you can come back in the game, because even if you don't hold the objectives, as long as you take them for a turn, you'll be able to start scoring. But not if you die.
Which just goes along with what we talked about with Quinn's job at this point, is making sure he doesn't give Jason any opportunity that he could claw his way back. And taking away your ability to access the mission points, that's a good way to just make sure you don't have a rung to stand on that ladder.
Absolutely.
All right, this is like the regular Dread Knight, if I remember correctly, was on the right side. So the regular Dread Knight is coming around the side.
So
and now the other one is the Grandmaster.
Yep, Grandmaster with the big hammer going up to that top right objective, or top left, excuse me. And I think he's going to try to put paid to that unit Finally, get rid of that last Castellan robot. Please stop slowly and gradually bludgeoning my army to death, Mr. Castellan.
I think the Grey Knights, they understand. If you just let a Castellan punch you over and over, you will eventually die.
Yeah. They've learned. It's a little known fact of that. Was that Perils? Good start to the psychic phase there, Quinn. Nailing it.
Right,
yeah, looks like
looks
like we're eating some damage on our strike squads. But it's a little known lore fact that Dread Knights were created as a response to Castellan robots. They saw that Castellan robots were unstoppable killing machines, and Grey Knights said, we need a way to fight that, so we'll build our own robots that are significantly derpier looking.
Here's the problem, Trevi. I know so little about lore outside of the 2 armies I play, I have no idea if you're lying or not. Because it's not like 40k lore has been known to be understandable nor predictable.
Yeah. This lore lesson brought to you by someone who knows all the lore about all the Warhammers. Now, Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight, you've slain the Castellan robot. You are the Warhammer 40,000.
See, I feel like, though, that Castellan, his fists, sometimes people name their fists. He couldn't have named his fist Warhammer.
He could have.
He could be the Warhammer 40,000.
No. He named something else Warhammer. His shoulder-mounted gun, of course.
Sure, yeah, of course.
or
maybe
the third weapon slot.
I feel like we missed the boat a little bit that we did not name the skull cannons in the last round. We had an opportunity to give those names.
Yeah, there you go. Warhammer 40,000 and Age of Sigmar.
I feel like one of the skull cannons should have at least been named Richard.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
All right, for those of you just joining us in, that's the kind of quality content I provide.
We are hyper professional. I don't know if you knew this, chat. We are wearing blazers.
Oh yes, we have to go to the commentator for one moment.
Look at how good we
in
look,
case anyone
chat.
has questions.
Oh my god, dude.
This is a professional setup today.
This is so professional.
Yeah. We've been leaving the commentator cam off so that not to overwhelm any of you with our, just rampant sexuality.
Our raw magnetism would break your computer monitors.
We have to go back to the overhead now so it's not create any feelings of lust in the audience.
I apologize for anyone who went blind. With professionalism.
All right. So we got we got the ritual off with no
Ooh,
perils.
no! The Castle of Dreadnought goes down to guns.
No.
Oh, that. We needed
Who
a
do we
duel.
root for now, Trevi?
Iron Striders? I don't know.
I mean, they're not as cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Part of me was hoping this was one of those games where both players table each other and there was a lone Castellan standing in the middle at the end of the game.
Right. Yeah. It's like sort of a Mr. Rogers in a blood-stained sweater sort of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to get that reference from you. You have no idea.
Yeah.
As a middle school teacher, I can't make references like that because none of my kids understand what's going on.
Yeah. I was in middle school once. Yeah, that would have been great. I mean, yeah, somewhere in the infinite multiverse, there is a universe in which the Nemesis Dread Knight shoots the Castellan robot. The Castellan robot rolls an ungodly number of 6s on its invulnerable save, reflects a bunch of mortal wounds, brackets that guy. He charges, fails to kill the robot. The robot kills him. The other Dread Knight fails, gets killed by the Castellan on the swing back, and then he the Castellan robot stands atop the broken wrecks of the other robots and roars triumphantly in binary into the sky. He lifts his Warhammer high.
Bellows victoriously. I think the real problem is that if this was a fair robot versus robot fight, clearly the Castellan would have run or won. But the Great Knight's not a robot; he's got a person in there. That's just cheating.
Are you saying people are superior to robots?
I think that is you've now brought
clearly
you have a robot plus a person versus just a robot.
There were like 60 people in this Ad Mech army, and they all died, and that robot killed like a bunch of paladins.
All right, so the Dread Knights are trying to take out these Ballistari as Trevi pointed out, that was the next hero in line, and Great Knights are just not having it.
Yeah. No fun over here on Titan. Yeah, this is the first one down. Unfortunately, those Malastari, they are relatively resilient, but they're not that hard to kill once you you get the Psi weapons online. They have a pretty good profile to knock those guys down. And at only 6 wounds a model, the Iron Striders are going to get
Looks like the other one down the
punked
bottom
pretty
just
quickly.
Got wounds put on it. And remember, nothing moved. I can't remember. Nothing moved into the ruin in top left. There's a Ballistari and Onager up there, but they're by themselves at this point,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, they're all in their lonesome. But there is an interceptor unit bottom left pushing into Quinn's objective there, so I imagine that will flip to to Jason's objective, excuse me. So I imagine that will flip to Quinn's control very quickly.
Yeah.
Here comes that unit charging in, using their teleporters to teleport up and over the wall, as you do.
Shunting, as you were.
What a word.
Yeah.
What a good, not dirty sounding word.
Clearly, what we need now in round 3 is skull cannons versus shunting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so they have charged. There's a Marshal and a unit of Servitors down there that both got charged.
Yeah, downside there is that that's not objective secured stuff down there. So if the interceptors can at least kill the servitors, they will have taken it, and that's going to knock Jason down to a 0-point primary again for a second turn.
I have seen people win games when being held to a 0 on a turn. I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone win when being held to 0 twice.
Yeah, it's doable, but you need your opponent to overextend so hard to put you to 0 that then you get to counterattack and basically table them. And I don't think that there's enough beef here for that to happen.
I've seen it as I played Necrons for about a year. I've seen with the custom dynasty that just wants to go up and hold the objectives. You understand that you're going to die. You're going to get tabled, and the hope is you just held them low enough. Sometimes you can't hold them low enough. But outside of things like that, it's hard to see someone overextend that hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marshall has died to that charge. So now it's 4 Servitors versus 10 of the Emperor's Finest. That may be a mismatch.
Tempestus Scions?
Everyone thinks they're the Emperor's Finest, and it's hard for me to keep track. Yeah. Everyone's like the Emperor's something.
Yeah.
Like, I just found out yesterday, I guess, Space Wolves were the Emperor's Executioners, which I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
So.
Because they executed all the Thousand Sons.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
I thought it was just they're murderers, and they send them when they need to go murder somebody.
Yeah, and they needed to murder the Thousand Sons.
I did not realize that was based
except for all the Thousand Sons that they didn't murder, which has created a big problem because now they have a 0+ armor save, and you just can't kill them. So good luck now, Space Wolves, you big dummies.
Yeah, obviously, I think the Custodes are normally the Emperor's Finest craft dragon, but it's just everyone's the Emperor something. Everyone's got a nickname, and I can't keep them straight.
Is the Emperor's Finest Custodes, or is it like a wine brand?
Well, based on when the Custodes Codex came out, I don't know that wine and Custodes are separate. They may go together someplace.
Oh, that was good. That worked on multiple levels. I really appreciated that.
You know what? Monkeys with a typewriter, right?
All right. I think we might be at a...
Yeah, we got players standing up looking at phones. I think we may be nearing
maybe at a talking
phase. Yeah.
See what we got. Oh, no, tape measure has returned. Okay. Pulling back in.
The rest of this game should not take very long.
Yeah.
We're in the cleanup step, as it were. It's really as many game. Most players need to come to this point at some point in the tournament. There's only one winner.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are going to lose at some point, and then the rest of their games need to be, how do I maximize my points?
Yep.
Where are the points on the table that I can get to make sure I walk away from here in the best position to place well in this event?
Absolutely.
So regardless of if this game appears to be a foregone conclusion of who is going to emerge victorious, Jason still has plenty to play for.
Yeah, your tiebreakers are still very relevant. Game Craft Dragon, yeah, the Terran Corpse Malts. The Emperor's Finest. That's good. I would try that once. I'm into a little light cannibalism, I think.
I have bought a vodka at one point that was sold inside of like a Crystal Skull bottle.
Oh,
So I feel like if you put a corpse on a
that
wine bottle, I would
sounds
try it.
both fun and tacky.
It was definitely an impulse buy as I was walking through the grocery store. I was like, that looks interesting. I'm just going to put
Yeah.
that in the cart.
At the very least, we empty out the vodka and it looks good on my shelf.
Yeah.
We make it a terrain piece. So trying to cut a line of sight with the Grandmaster into, we're using a laser here. We can't really quite see it on the camera, unfortunately. But trying to cut a line of sight from the Grandmaster on the top left-hand side to the Onager Doomcrawler over there. Or I think vice versa. Trying to shoot with the Onager Doomcrawler. It does have a high volume of attacks, which isn't too bad against the invulnerable save on the Dread Knight.
Well, apparently I gave Dan Aykroyd money for vodka. I did not know that he had a vodka brand.
Wow, how nice.
I'm sure he needed my money. It's fine. I don't mind helping out.
So Nemesis Dread Knight taking it a little bit of damage from the Onager. So many different weapons on that thing. It's crazy. We get all those rerolls from Mars. Looks like a bunch of damage going, or a bunch of wounds going through. Do we see some good saves here? Survey says no.
Nope.
That was a 1.
So just whittling down that Grandmaster, but
Yep.
maybe we'll see if there's enough time for that to add up or not.
Can we count on how many wounds there are on that guy?
Yeah, we can find out. Got 5 left. He's getting there. He's getting there.
Close. Almost got him dead. I will say, as befits Corn Stable, this again has been a very bloody game.
Yep.
Despite the fact that we are heavily ahead for Grey Knights, they have traded a lot of their ground. There he goes.
Oh my God, he's gone.
Grandmaster down. Just the standard Dread Knight and the Chaplain holding the line in the center. I think we're questioning whether or not he is in lookout, sir. I think it looks a little far.
I mean, those are definitely points that if he can peel everything off this objective, those are the kind of points that Jason needs for the rest of this event.
Yeah. But now we have to fire this precious few infantry and such into the interceptors on Jason's home objective, and that's going to be tough for them to kill. As we saw before, Armor of Contempt plus light cover being a very potent combination of defensive effects, making those guys really difficult to take out. It's like a couple wounds getting inflicted on those guys down there. Yeah, slowly but surely whittling them down. But the problem is, I think that we're just out of stuff to kill this remaining this remaining Dread Knight, and there's still Grey Knights hiding on the bottom and top left objectives as well.
And as we've mentioned earlier in this round or in this game, at a certain point you're going to have to go 2 directions, and we now have Grey Knights holding 2 different home bases, and there's not that many models left to go in 2 different directions.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of have to pick one or the other.
Normally you'd like to see a base trade, but they've executed just a base theft, I guess.
All your base are belong to us.
Yeah. So I think they only did 1 or 2 to the interceptors bottom left, and gonna see if we can clear them out with Rangers and melee. It seems like a tall order, but we are definitely at that stage at 40k where you just put your faith in the heart of the dice. Let's roll a bunch of 6s here, boys. Victor Von Champ asking, what do we think about Armor of Contempt? Is it a good rule?
I have no idea if it is actually how wildly impactful it is actually going to be on what is viable or what is not viable. However, it has clearly invigorated people's creative juices. They want to go out and try stuff. And for me, that's the hallmark of a meta that I want to play in, that people are excited to try things.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing now Adeptus Sororitas, which is our last game, back on the table. One of the worst performing factions for a long time, although a lot of that has to do with their new Miracle Dice rework.
Yeah.
We see Blood Angels putting up results, which is not a results I would expect in a million years after the release of their supplement.
Listen, 30. You can play 30 Sanguinary Guard with a 2-up and ignore AP1 or ignore 1 AP. That's chonky.
They some chunky boys for sure.
When you move 14 inches, you don't even get that many turns to shoot them. They don't need to survive for that long.
and not to mention it's added a new lease on life for even the already existent Space Marine archetypes that were still hovering around the above average sort of level, but not quite breaking into the top. So things like Grey Knights, things like Iron Hands, things like Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns have to be the biggest winner.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Starting to really come back in a big way, and that's super fun.
Yeah.
It's really kind of broken open the top 8, I would say, of the game, and
we're going to get to see, not this weekend, but hopefully as early as next weekend, if not the weekend after for sure. What does all these changes now with the tiered changes from this morning? What does that world get to look like? You have to be hopeful. I feel that if you're bringing down the one thing everyone's complaining about, and everyone else is already excited about these changes, that they were excited about that while something was powerful. That thing becomes less powerful. This has to be just as exciting, or if not more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do not know, as I said, is Armor Contempt going to make any Marines S tier? I have no idea. But I'm excited that people are excited to find out.
Yeah. The most important thing about it is that it didn't do anything to increase the damage output of Space Marine factions, which means they're only ever going to do as much damage as they did before. So unlike a lot of beneficial changes like we see for Sororitas, where they get double Miracle Dice, which means they're going to be more effective both offensively and defensively, Space Marines are only benefiting defensively, which means the amount that they can be propelled up in the metagame as a result of that change is very limited.
Which, to be fair, there is that hilarious tangential side effect almost of Marines are now so bad at killing each other that or they just seem so much worse at just directly fighting other Marines. That I haven't got to watch that yet, but it sounds hilarious.
They're like, aha, I have Armor of Contempt. So you're like, okay, well, I have a Doctrine, I guess.
I'm sure they're still fine, but just on paper, they seem so much worse directly playing other Marines now.
Right. And I mean, hilariously, that's how it's always been, right? Because kind of the sub-theme of Space Marines has been, resilience over damage output.
Yeah.
You've seen it all the way back from the early stages of the game where there's 3+ armor saves with AP not being a thing, firing at each other and doing stone cold nothing.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we're seeing, I'm not sure if we're talking out, or a lot of gesticulating. There's another good word.
That is a good word.
So we may be in the shortcutting phase here. We'll see. I'll be honest. I thought Cultists didn't get AOC. I thought that was in the FAQ that they don't get it.
I don't know that one off the top of my head.
All right. I could just be wrong. I thought the balance update specifically said Cultists don't get it. But I definitely could be misremembering. That's not something I spent a lot of time looking at.
Yeah, so it looks like we're continuing to ritualize the table up to 10 on Purifying Ritual now. Moving into Battle Round 4.
Right. Hammerhand has gone off 3 rituals. Yeah.
Primary and secondary looking pretty bad for Jason. Although we haven't scored no prisoners yet. No prisoners. Oh, or have we actually? We have. They've gotten 6.
Yeah.
Okay, just kidding. It looks like a 0.
Sorry, I can.
No, you're good.
All right.
Yeah, but that I think as open-ended as Engage in All Friends might have been, I think Raise the Banners High was the real questionable pick here for Jason. I think every time I've seen Raise the Banners picked on this mission, it's gone poorly.
Yep. I'm trying to think about what could we have done there. What could Jason maybe have been better off by picking instead of banners? What is left?
Yeah, one of the downsides of playing against the Grey Knight's army is that it doesn't give up kill secondary so well. Like, you could push for a 10 on Assassinate, which doesn't feel great.
I was going to say a boar, but he took the tech or the Inquisitor. So
yeah.
it's not even there.
You can even do a Knockmoon data, and I think he gets an 8 on Knockmoon. It's not good, but
you can start
it's
outflanking
Skitarii.
Those little 4-man units, the
Servitors.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Outflank those. I've done that with. I mean, it's a 50-50 roll at that point, but that might be better than what happened.
Right, getting 0. Yeah.
Oh, and Dr. Deuce, that's fine. I absolutely, like I said, I've been playing Tau, so I really didn't look at it that much. I guess in my head, I just thought it was specifically the actual Space Marine things, the vehicles and the Marines and the.
Well, it would be important
like
for Cultists and Spawn to get Armor of Contempt, because it's not like they're wearing any other armor, so at least having Contempt to fall back on feels, it's helpful in some way. So he used a fallback charge on the interceptors in the bottom left-hand side to clear out the characters that are on that objective. These vehicles are just sticking around, though. The Grandmaster Dread Knight slowly, or the one remaining non-Grandmaster Dread Knight, slowly chewing his way through them, but hasn't clipped them out yet.
I almost wonder if these vehicles should, at a certain point, when Jason recognized this game was going south, if those vehicles just start sprinting down the edges of the table and just being the engage things, just get the vehicles over the halfway line and take your pot shots, whatever. I think at a certain point you could see that I'm not holding these objectives anymore. So where are there points on the table that I can still acquire?
Yeah, try to squeeze Rodder from the rock of this game.
Yeah. Chicken exploded.
Take that.
That's a flaming chicken.
That's funny. That's like whenever I cook.
Well, I mean, your faction just eats raw meat. You don't need to have experience.
It doesn't matter if the chicken's exploded or not.
Still biomass.
Yeah, more often than not, we did that. We exploded the chicken.
Exploded it with your brain, then just sucked it up like a vacuum. I don't really know how Tyranids eat.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
It's probably something to do with radulas. So many radulas. Looks like the chaplain went into the top left ruin, cleared out the cybernetic Datasmith. So we're just down to an Onager Doomcrawler top left. We have the Onager and Iron Strider bottom left. Can we get a count of remaining Ad Mech in the bottom left ruin there? Can't quite see through the top.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, and I hope I don't come off as critical in this. I'm not really sure what Jason even can score points-wise with where he has things. Like, he's not getting his objectives back. He's not getting engaged. He can't put banners with anything he has left, I don't think. Unless there's some infantry hiding that we don't see. I feel like we need to go find where there are points here. I can't win, but there are points that I can get over the course of this event to maybe help me finish higher if I go X and 1. And I feel like Jason just kind of stopped trying to go get those a little bit.
So 3 Rangers in the bottom left. So Jason may retain control of that objective for one more turn, although it's not going to score him anything because he doesn't have any other objectives.
Yeah, Void Bearable, I agree. I think Trevi agrees also. We understand who's winning this game. But I think
it's
us,
tournament the players, audience.
Yeah, the audience won. Anytime we get to watch 40K for 3 days, the audience wins.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's a tournament mentality that is almost like a hurdle to overcome. That, like, when you become a tournament player, you've got to figure out how to adopt this mentality. When you're playing games for fun, if you can't win a game, you stop playing it.
Right.
If you're playing at your local game store, once you realize who's won, you stop playing.
Yep.
Or unless you're having fun playing the game, that's fine, whatever. In a tournament, winning only one person can go undefeated, and sometimes not even one. If your goal is to do well in a tournament, then I think you have to start adopting that philosophy of when I am losing, I need to shift gears to go find points I can for my final standing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a brand new exercise for sure.
Our table boss has informed us that the Ad Mech player is going to kill the Dread Knight out of spite, which is why he didn't leave anything. That's why he did not go get engaged with them. Is he said the player specifically said he wants to kill that Dread Knight out of spite.
Oh, it looks like Woot's ticking down on that thing pretty quickly. Here we go, boys. We're in.
It's armor of contempt, not armor of spite. Let's see what happens.
Oh, it doesn't even have armor of contempt.
Oh, that's right. They don't even get it.
It has 6s on its invulnerable saves. Look at all those 6s on the hit rolls, though.
Yeah, he has contempt for this Ad Mech player.
We went both. We went.
This is top of 5, actually.
Bottom 4, right?
Our table boss has updated the top of 5, but I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Ad Mech went first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, man, Grey Knights on top of this get bottom round 5 scoring. Ooh. Oh, no.
Yeah, this is we all understand what happened here, but that's one of the moments that if you just want to do something like that in a tournament, you go for it.
We're in.
That is an absolutely good reason to not go get your engages or whatever.
Yeah. So it looks like I think Dread Knight survived, and we are just going to score it out.
Yep.
As it stands
Couldn't
from here.
Even get the moral victory, unfortunately.
Too bad.
Yeah.
But you did get the moral victory of playing 4 Castellan robots and having them be absolutely
so who's the real
sick.
Winner?
It was that last robot who punched an entire unit of Paladins to death. It was that guy. He was the winner.
Because Castellans don't have any type of promotion rank, I don't think. They can't be a sergeant or anything like that.
No. But you can paint cuter smiley faces on their little face plates.
There we go. There's a handshake. Player did not get 105, but we're going to assume that's 100 to 29. Our scoreboard doesn't understand how to cap the 12s, but that's fine. Looks like actually probably 98 is, based on segregation. So probably 98 to 29 victory. Good handshake, good game. Players had fun. Love seeing that at the end where we're just having fun with it. Go have that moral victory or try to. Absolutely the way I want to see 40K played. So I definitely enjoyed watching that game.
Absolutely.
So let's come back over here for a minute.
Yeah, it was a cool matchup to see on the table for sure.
Yeah, that was why we all wanted to fight for it.
Absolutely.
We don't get to see that nearly enough anymore. Those factions. Grey Knight's probably a lot more than Ad Mech, of course.
Yeah.
But Trevor, do you want to talk about our meta analysis right now, or do you want to wait till beginning of next round?
Yeah, we can take some time to go over the lists or the factions being represented at the Motor City Mayhem 2022. We have a breakdown of all the.
We did this for you guys at home, as we don't have any. We're not fancy. We don't have any digital way to calculate who's playing what. So we went out and we did it by hand just for you to let you know what does the meta in Detroit look like this year.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have most overly represented, I think, Space Marines, which makes sense.
Yep.
It's basically 8 different factions stapled together. After that, unsurprisingly, Tyranids at 22 players. So Space Marines at 25 out of 176. Tyranids at 22, and then moving down the line, we have Eldari at 19. So I think, beyond a high representation of Space Marines, which is always going to happen regardless of the event you're in.
Especially when they just got cool rule changes.
They just got sick Armor of Contempt, and we've been seeing some good results being put up by Blood Angels, by Space Wolves so far this weekend, and I think we'll continue to see those until we move on, I think, to the upper echelon, and then we're probably going to see a little bit more of those Tyranid players start to peak out.
I do not think Tyranids are going quietly into that sweet night this weekend.
Yeah. Eldari coming out with 19 players, and then followed by Tau.
We're gonna get them on
your own boys.
Yeah.
We even saw we were I think commenting down below us, so we're on a second level balcony of the event venue, which is very cool. And down below us on round 1 there was a Tau mirror match. Yep. Those 2 poor players had to shoot each other with broadsides for a while. But Tau is continuing to put up good results competitively, despite the fact that they were hit so many different ways by all of the different data slate changes.
Tau specifically, I feel like, are in this weird place right now as people are examining the meta. As we're seeing lots of reports over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm not sure how long it's been, that they're at this 50% win rate. I think this past weekend they were analyzed at a 49% win rate. That is not indicative of what Tau can do.
Right.
That is probably indicative of how many people were playing Tau and we're not prepared to make adjustments when rules start changing.
Yeah.
Tau are not a 49%
There's still somebody there with like
army.
29 air bursting fragmentation projectors, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, we don't do that here now.
Some people glued their weapons on and painted their army, and like, well, I guess this is what I'm playing. Tau, I expect we will see Tau at some point this weekend putting up a fight. Absolutely, they are not going away.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've continued to podium and even win, GTs in larger events, post nerf. So I think, interestingly, Tau felt like one of the factions that probably was received the most even-handed change in the data slate update, which was nice to see. I guess that was one you were kind of everyone is kind of expecting them to overcorrect on.
I think everyone, we're talking about whining again. I think Custodes players and what happened to them is what everyone was expecting to happen to Tau.
Yeah.
And everyone was a bit caught off guard by how that kind of got flipped around a little bit. Custodes still very playable. We've seen a lot of them out here. We have 14 Custodes players, which I think are the next highest faction under our Tau.
Yep.
So Custodes are definitely still showing up in force. Very easy army for most people to acquire. A lot of people have a Custodes army. And they still basically just have better data sheets than everybody else.
Right.
So
yeah, and it's Custodians are still in an interesting spot because I don't think their list archetypes have really been sussed out quite yet. With the loss of objective security on a lot of their units, it's kind of hard to fit objective security into your Custodians lists. So the balance of infantry, troops that you take versus the more like combatively powerful Forge World units like the tanks and the dreadnoughts that are actually going to be dealing damage is still really an interesting place for Custodians to be. They're kind of like if Space Marines didn't have Rights of War. Like what would you take more infiltrators? I don't know. We haven't decided yet. That's kind of where they're
not
at.
a world I've ever had to live in.
I know, right? It's weird, and I think that's why there's a lot of indecision in the Custodians community.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can come out of it unscathed. And then we have a bunch of factions hovering around the 9s and 10s, including Harlequins. Lots of pure Harlequins I saw, actually. We had Eldari, which included mixed Eldari, right?
Yeah, I may have shortcutted that a little bit. Some of those are Eldar plus Harlequins, some of them are not.
Yeah. You can't trust players to correctly put in their faction anyway. So there's 10 pure Harlequins, though.
Yes.
In addition, or 9 pure Harlequins, 8,000 Suns, 9 Adeptus Sororitas, of which we saw Jack Harpster play last round. We have 7 Orcs, and then going down the line for the smaller single digits, we have 5 each of Necrons and Knights. We have 6 Death Guard, 5 Demons, 2 Chaos Space Marines, Adeptus Mechanicus, 1 Imperial Guard, 1 Chaos Knights, and I think rounding things out, 3 Genestealer Cult, 4 Grey Knights. I think that covers everything. Oh, 4 pure Drukhari, actually.
Yeah.
That's interesting to see.
That one seems... I honestly feel like we should be seeing more of that. I don't think Drukhari are bad. They're kind of in the Ad Mech borders. I feel like there's still a lot of stuff in that book.
Absolutely.
I think there's just been a lot of bigger, fancier, flashier things out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is the comparison between Drukhari and Harlequins, because there are 2 factions that basically do the same thing.
Yeah.
And Harlequins have proven that even through a pretty hefty nerf hammer, the archetype of just running hundreds of annoying transports filled with objective secure models on every objective every game is very good and wins you games. Yeah.
Not everybody can open transports, as someone was talking about last round. Sometimes you want to bring all melee. People like playing their Khorne Demons or Bloody Rose or whatever, and depending on how you structured your list, you might not have the ability to open 3 transports a turn plus kill the insides.
Absolutely. So yeah, and Drukhari just basically do that. Their characters don't, I think, hit quite as hard as the Harlequin characters, but they have access to things like Incubi, who can hit well above the rate class.
What is it? The succubus with the rerolls,
the triptych
and all
whip.
That stuff. That's
lady.
Still a thing.
Yeah, I mean they still hit fine. They still don't get me wrong. They're going to whip you. Yeah. And I think even, especially in a universe where Tyranids are the dominant faction, Drukhari are a little bit less susceptible to mortal wounds than I think Harlequins are, because Harlequins just have nothing and they die.
Yeah.
And they have a ton of poison, an absolute ton of poison. And that triptych with Succubus will just dirt a Maliceptor or a Hive Tyrant or whatever in one go, no problem.
Well, and this is we mentioned it earlier, this 1,000 Suns number, 8,000 Suns. I've gotten to play against Armor Contempt 1,000 Suns. I have no idea how they match up into Tyranids. assuming that there's a reasonable gameplay there that you feel like you could play against Tyranids and try to outplay your opponent, they seem to be incredibly durable at this point with these armor contempt changes, especially on GW terrain where you know that there's going to be lots of light cover that you can stand in.
Yep.
That, to me, that would be my sleeper pick of what army might be able to overperform this weekend. Not picking players or individual lists or anything like that, but the ability for Thousand Suns to be incredibly durable on GW terrain specifically, where you can guarantee a giant portion of the table as light cover. If they have gameplay, I've never played Thousand Suns. If those players feel that there is gameplay into Tyranids at any capacity, I feel like we could see some Thousand Suns players putting above average results up this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case. I don't know how that matchup goes specifically. I think, having talked to some Thousand Suns players, I think they don't think it's particularly favorable for the Thousand Suns. But we'll just have to see as the weekend goes on. Moving on into the future with Tyranids doing less mortal wounds and going to be focusing more on actually shooting people with regular guns, Thousand Suns are just going to get much better in that matchup. Yeah.
So we'll see. There are some good Thousand Suns players here this weekend. I'm interested to see how they do. I think TJ Lanigan's here. He's been playing Thousand Suns. Obviously, there's at least 7 more people. So I'm interested to keep an eye on him to just see what happens over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, chat. We're gonna take a break. Our next round, I believe, starts at I want to say 4 o'clock. Seems not far away enough. Do you happen to have the packet still up?
I'm sure I do.
All right. We'll double check that. Let you guys know. So 4 o'clock's only in 10 minutes. So that doesn't seem correct to say 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we started at
1, right?
Started at 1? No. That's not it.
So maybe 4:30.
Where is it?
We'll let you know before we go, though, Chad. Because we want you to come back. We want to keep hanging with you. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming in and keeping us company.
Yeah, this is going to be a long weekend, but I'm excited to spend it with you guys. I got to do a podcast with some people about earlier this week. I just love talking about 40K. And any opportunity I can chat with 40K about 40K for 3 days, I want to snap that up. So
5 p.m.
5 p.m. All right. So we'll be back at 5 for our final game on day 1. And then we'll have probably at that point, we'll be starting to see a shape of who's in contention, what armies are in contention, what do we see heading into day 2. Motor City Mayhem is a 3-day tournament, so we're going to be playing 3 rounds today and tomorrow, cut to top 8. Top 8 will all play on Sunday. So after this last game tonight, I think we're going to start being able to focus in on who do we think are the contenders here fighting for that spot to get to top 8 tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, all right.
It's going to be good.